Sports, home of the $250,000 NFL baller, and tonight $50K NBA baller, $10 to enter, and also the home of the YSRPs, those Yahoo Sports rewards points. Get up to $30 in them simply by signing up with us at awesemo.com. Go to awesemo.com, click on that NFL tab. You'll see the articles. Any of the primetime articles for the past couple days, they are free. Click on that. See the link right at the top. It's in green. Send you over to Yahoo. So click that. Use the sign-up code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, when you do, and get your $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points upon depositing. We'll see you over there. Yahoo, daily fantasy sports sponsor of the Deeper Dive. You got CSV edits and some, if you look hard enough, management-free contests where everything paid in by the player gets paid back out to the player. They are the sponsor of the Deeper Dive. I am Dave Lockren. That is Adam Scher. What's happening, man?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Not bad. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Good. You're really crushing it early on.
Yeah. Hadn't had one of those days in a while.
Yeah. Just thought you'd bring it back, huh? All right. Initial overview of the slate. I ask you this each time. We've got 9 games. What do you make of it here? Anything stand out to you? Any guys that you think need to be staples or, cornerstones of your lineups? What are we looking at here for this 9-gamer?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty fun slate compared to what we've had so far this week. On Monday, we had that slate where there was just, a million really good kind of can't miss value plays. And then yesterday, it was the exact opposite. Today, you have a bunch of guys at the top that I think are obviously really, really good plays, but getting them in, you can get kind of creative because a lot of the value that we had on Monday is playing again tonight at price points that are, $2,000+ more expensive. So while some of them are still good plays, they're not the, 100% just get them in all your lineups plays that they were on Monday. And there's other cheap guys that you can go to that, are risky, but cheap. And I don't know, I think it's a pretty fun slate as far as roster construction goes.
Cantor says, Adam coming in like a house on fire. That's awesome. Glad to have everyone with us. Yesterday was a fun show. It'll be hard to top that one, but we're here. And by the way, W German, Laffy yesterday, DeAndre Hunter is the worst player in the NBA, only to see him 6S last night. I don't think I mentioned DeAndre Hunter once.
Yes, I said that. I asked if he was the worst offensive player in the history of the league, I think.
Oh, okay. It was you. I didn't think it was any of us.
And it was to Josh. I don't think it was to you.
Yeah, it wasn't even on this show, I don't think. I would remember that. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, he's still not a good offensive player at all, and he never has been.
Yeah, I mean, I think DeAndre Hunter is a perfectly reasonable play tonight. It doesn't make me think that he's not the worst offensive player in the history of the NBA like I thought yesterday.
The history of the NBA. That's saying a lot, man.
It's completely just biased by the one game where, like all the Hawks were chalk against like Miami or something, except for him. So I just played a bunch of him and then couldn't do anything but laugh when every time he touched the ball, it got stolen immediately.
Yep. And that just is kind of what happens at times. Nikola Jokic, I said I wasn't worried about him. I don't know. Maybe I am.
I'm worried about him as far as when I put him in my lineups, I kind of feel like I'm lighting money on fire, but I'm not going to stop doing it.
I was watching him and there's a lot of talk about him being out of shape and looking terrible. He looks like every time
exactly
I've watched Nikola Jokic.
Right. I said it to someone in Slack because it came up in chat yesterday. I was like, can someone please find me the Nikola Jokic highlights where he looked like he was in shape and he wasn't slow?
Right. Where he's flying up and down the court. I don't know, man. But what a rough game. And I went underweight on Davis on DraftKings and I had Jokic coming up. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. Right. Like I couldn't be in a better spot. Overweight on LeBron, under on Davis. Like, you know what I mean? Could you ask for a better position to be in for that late game hammer?
Yeah. No, I was kind of lucky in that regard because I was also overweight on Jokic, but I was overweight on Davis. So I didn't really care about Jokic.
So it didn't make a difference. I hear you. By the way, yesterday we crushed it. Today, because we're such nice people, once we hit 750 likes, we're actually going down 50 from yesterday. I mean, what are we just giving everything away? Once we hit 750 likes, the deep dive is going to be free on awesemo.com. Adam, we labor over that. I almost used an inappropriate word there. And You did it today. I'm assuming it is long, drawn out, comprehensive, and has all the information you need in a written piece of content at
Yeah, I
Awesome.
think I worked on that from about 10:30 until I posted it at like 4:15.
Yeah, he's not making that up, by the way. The research is, in my opinion, and I don't even know if it's my opinion, objectively unparalleled. So 750 likes. The deep dive will be free for all of your eyes to feast on. We welcome you to join us over at awesomemode.com. All right, let's jump into it. Washington, Indiana. Indiana playing the second of a back-to-back after an overtime game. So that doesn't bode particularly well for him, but it is early in the season. 224 and a half total, 114.3 for the Pacers, 110.3 for Washington. Pacers are 4-point favorites here. What are you doing with the Pacers? And what do you think we're going to see from the front court again? Both Sabonis and Miles Turner were ruled out yesterday.
Yeah, so now we have Turner and Sabonis questionable. We also have Jeremy Lamb doubtful. So a lot of news we're waiting on from this team. As far as touching on the back-to-back, I think you and I treat it the same way, but people were asking me about it last night. So overall or in general, I don't really factor it in on top of what like Vegas and projections and stuff already factor in. Like Vegas knows they're on a back-to-back. Vegas knows that they went to overtime last night. I think that the total in this game probably is lower than it otherwise would have been, but I'm not like on top of that being like, I hate Malcolm Brogdon because it's a back-to-back. It's one of those things where, yeah, it can affect player performance, but I think it becomes kind of anecdotal. Like when, if like Brogdon were to have a terrible game today, people will be like, oh, it was a back-to-back, but then they just forget all the other times that it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, you could find a lot of players that have zero difference in stats on back-to-backs.
Yeah, so getting beyond that, though, obviously one of the games with the most important news on the slate. Right now, I'm projecting Sabonis and Turner both to be in, just because they both went through warm-ups yesterday. I kind of got the impression that Indiana just decided to give them both an extra day off with it being a back-to-back. So I have them in. Obviously, we have a pretty decent idea of what to do if one or both of them are out, since we've seen those games play out recently. Obviously, if they're both out, you go right back to Goga here. If Sabonis is in and Turner's out, then you can still consider Goga, but it gets kind of tough with the elevated price tag and the fact that he's probably not going to play 30 minutes. If they're both in, then Goga's out of play, and Sabonis and Turner are both priced up enough where I'm not sure I would get to a lot of them anyway. The interesting part that we haven't seen before is Jeremy Lamb being doubtful. His direct backup yesterday was Aaron Holiday. I think that if the bigs are in, I'm expecting Justin Holiday to get the start and then Aaron Holiday to still play low 20s in minutes. If the bigs are out, it gets kind of messy because then you have more, McDermott playing at the 4, you have more Holiday playing down some. So it just opens up more minutes for pretty much everyone if all of Lamb, Sabonis, and Turner are out.
Does it interest you in how either of the Holiday brothers?
Yeah, just because they are close to minimum salary. Justin Holiday is not a high usage guy. Aaron Holiday gets usage, but you have to keep in mind that a lot of that's because he's just playing minutes with the bench. So neither one is someone that I expect to be a great raw points play. But with those guys that we had on Monday, like Bruce Brown, like Kai Bowman, being a lot more expensive than they were, when you're trying to get up to the stars on this slate, you have to kind of take a chance on some cheaper guys. So I do think they both are still viable options. They both, for me, project for between like 18 and 21 DraftKings points at close to the minimum salary.
Okay. Anything else for the Pacers? I think
I think Brogdon's still my favorite play from Indiana. This season, he has a 27.2% usage rate, should play 33, 34 minutes in a competitive game. It's a huge pace up spot for the Pacers. Washington's in the top 10 in pace, bottom 10 in defensive efficiency this year. Brogdon has the 4th most potential assists per game in the entire NBA behind LeBron. It's in the deep dive. It's behind LeBron, I think Trae Young, and where did it go?
What, the most what?
Most potential assists per game for Brogdon.
And Luka, I think.
Yeah, it sounds right. LeBron. It's behind LeBron, Luka, and Westbrook.
Yeah.
With 18.4 per game. So I still really like Brogdon. His salary actually came down a little bit on DraftKings. And then TJ Warren's someone that I've been seeing people talk about a lot, just kind of like on Twitter and other places. I think he's fine, but I don't really get all the love with him. He's been playing big minutes all season long. He's getting up some shots, but he's not really contributing much in the way of rebounds. He's contributing even less as far as assists go, Last night, he shot 83% from the field. That was really the only difference between his monster game last night and the games he's had so far this year. He still wasn't getting rebounds. He still wasn't getting assists. Assuming Lamb is out, I think the rebound numbers go up a little bit for Warren and for Brogdon, but I still don't think you're getting a bunch of peripherals. It's just a matter of, can he shoot really well? So still a secondary option for me.
Talking about Washington on the other side, I want to start with, well, I don't know really where to start. Isaiah Thomas last time out, minutes monitored. Well, it was for real. He played 24 minutes. He's been a +1 per minute guy this year, pretty significantly. But you're seeing that price point at an area where it's pretty easy to get away from him, given that his minutes have still been restricted. I mean, really, what on this Washington team stands out to you? The big thing I want to talk about, though, first is Bradley Beal's price tag has plummeted since last game, down $800 since he faced Detroit. Now he's got the Pacers, but a huge price decrease. Now, of course, there are a lot of high-end options, from Giannis and Antetokounmpo to Harden to Drummond to Towns to Luka. Embiid and Towns are both back. There's Westbrook, there's Trae Young, you name it. So making Beal a priority is a totally different conversation. But he is now at a price point where on most nights I'd be willing to consider him.
Yeah, he's the guy that really does stand out for me from Washington. He's not someone that I'm really interested in cash games, just because, like you said, there's so many options at the top. There's a ton of guard options. I think that a cheaper Malcolm Brogdon is a little bit better play given the respective matchups. But whenever you get someone like that is really tough to get into any sort of, quote unquote optimal lineup, it makes their ownership come down. And it's not like you're getting a lower ceiling on Beal than on a lot of these other guys at the top. He's struggled recently from a combination of just not shooting well, and the Wizards have been in a couple of blowouts recently, so he's lost a few minutes, but he still leads the team with a 33% usage rate. His usage so far alongside Isaiah Thomas hasn't taken a hit. He still had the ball in his hands plenty in the last game, even with Thomas starting. His effective field goal percentage this year is about 6.5 points lower than it was last season. And so I think that you're just getting his price tag falling and low ownership when there's really nothing to be concerned about there. So we have him at 7% ownership on DraftKings right now. I think I probably get overweight on that just because of the ceiling that he has. But beyond him, this Washington team right now is pretty unappealing, because not only is it a pace down spot against Indiana, but they have CJ Miles back from injury. They have Troy Brown back from injury. So you're seeing a little bit less run for Thomas Bryant because Mo Wagner's playing really well behind them off the bench. You're seeing a little bit less run for Rui because you have to get minutes for Bertans and for Brown and for Miles. And then you might also have Jordan McRae coming back. I'm not sure exactly where he would even fit in. But right now, with the exception of Beal, who's not really affected by any of this, it's just taking a couple minutes away from pretty much everyone, and it's making the rest of the team really unappealing.
Yeah, I'm actually all right moving to Detroit and New York if you are. All right, because look, we've had pretty short slates the past couple of days. We at least have 9 to talk about here. The New York Knicks squaring off against the Detroit Pistons in Motor City, 206 total. It's the lowest on the slate, 105.3 for the Pistons, 100.8 for the Knicks. Knicks are 4.5-point dogs here on the road. I actually want to start somewhere away from Andre Drummond. I want to start with Markieff Morris because of the price tag. Morris brothers collide tonight in Motor City, but one of them has been really good. Marcus has played really well for the Knicks thus far. I mean, his past few games, this dude looks solid. Usage is way up. Everything looks great. His brother, on the other hand, put it this way, Marcus is probably embarrassed. And I don't want him to hear this because they're pretty gritty fellas. But yeah, Markieff Morris has really not looked good at all. Last game played 14 minutes, but even before that, the big thing is the minutes had been there. And when you're a guy that's playing close to the basket, albeit alongside, rebound vacuum Andre Drummond, you are going to see some opportunities, some easy opportunities to score. And I think he'll get a little bit closer to that 1 fantasy point per minute mark. I'm not saying he gets there, but I think it'll be closer. He played 32, 32, and 34 minutes in 3 games straight before playing only 14 against Washington. What do you make about a cheap Markieff Morris today?
I'm not concerned at all about the game against Washington. He picked up 2 fouls in the first quarter, picked up his third in the second quarter, and then the game blew out, so he never even came back in the fourth. Granted, like Andre, the rest of the starters did come back, but it's not like he was playing well. They didn't need him, whatever. I still think he plays 30, 32 minutes, assuming he's not in foul trouble and he's not playing incredibly bad. I have him projected for 0.74 DraftKings points per minute based on his rebounding opportunities this year and his usage. The rebounds are down alongside Drummond, but he's just cheap enough where, maybe someone that at really high ownership in tournaments you can pivot away from because it's pretty unlikely that he kills you if you don't have him. But as far as cash options go, I definitely think he's in play amongst the power forward options. The forward position today isn't particularly strong, and you're just getting a really cheap price tag on a guy that should play 30 to 32 minutes, should give you, 24 fantasy points.
Ultimately, it's kind of hard to get away from him.
Yeah. It's like I still have, he's my fourth favorite play on the Pistons, but.
Well, yeah, but that's different. I mean, well, you know what? Let's jump into it. By the way, Domantas Sabonis is in. Miles Turner is out. Jeremy Lamb, as expected, is also out. So Sabonis in, Turner out, Lamb out for the Pacers. You can always go back to the beginning of the show when we cover that if you're just tuning in now. Also 750 likes, unlocks the deeper dive. Adam did it today, did a phenomenal job. It's a beautiful piece of work at awesomemode.com. Unlocks that premium content with 750 likes. Who are your top three then, if he's your number 4 in Detroit?
Drummond, Brown, and Kennard.
So is Drummond, now that his price is starting to reach, it's starting to get up there. And of course, there's Karl Anthony Towns on this slate who is significantly cheaper than him on DraftKings, is actually cheaper than him on FanDuel as well. How much of a priority can you make Andre Drummond today?
I think Towns is the cash priority, especially on DraftKings where they are so different in terms of salary. I mentioned in the deep dive that I actually like Drummond a little more than Towns. As I've kind of gone back and adjusted some stuff, Towns is ahead of me ahead of Drummond when you factor in price, but I have Drummond in terms of raw points projected slightly ahead of Towns. And I think that the tournament ownership is really interesting. Right now on DraftKings, we have Towns as the highest owned player at 29%. We have Drummond at 15%. It's still one of the highest projected players on the slate for me in Drummond. It's not a bad matchup against the Knicks. It's not great, but over the 2 games without Rose or Frazier, in addition to Griffin, 26% usage, 27.5% expected rebounding percentage, pretty much in line with his season-long numbers, but also an 18.5% expected assist percentage, as we've seen more of a playmaking role as well. So his price tag, I think, is just like there's more risk, obviously, when you're paying that salary, but I still don't think he's overpriced.
Okay. I don't think he's overpriced. I just think Towns is wildly underpriced.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. But at the same time, the field's going to factor that in too. Like Drummond's not going to be 48% owned today like he was on Monday.
Okay, so he's number 1. Where are we going at number 2 and number 3?
Bruce Brown and Luke Kennard, both close for me. Brown, a little bit more appealing because he has forward eligibility on DraftKings and he's a little bit cheaper. I also think that there's a chance that people kind of just shy away from him because it's a really scary price tag in terms of, paying $5,300 for Bruce Brown. He's also $5,300 on FanDuel, but he's been very, very involved offensively. 22.8% usage rate over those 2 games without Rose and Frazier, 22.8% expected assist percentage, playing at least 36 minutes in both games. And I messaged it to you earlier in Slack. He is 4th in. So since November 2nd, which was the first game he played without Rose and Frazier, the only players in the NBA averaging more touches per game are Ben Simmons, LeBron, Luka, and Kyle Lowry. So, yeah. He's been very, very involved as far as offensively. It's not like he's just one of these guys that's out there standing on the court for an extra 12 minutes a night.
You're talking about Bowman?
No, I'm talking about Brown.
Oh, I thought you had mentioned it was Kai Bowman.
No, Bowman is after. So it goes Brown, then Brogdon, then Bowman.
Oh, I missed. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Bruce Brown or blah, 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 then Kai Bowman. Right. Yeah, because Bowman's at like 93 touches per game over that span, which is pretty ridiculous. We'll talk about him in a bit. Yeah, I thought you talked about Brown, and then I remembered you mentioned Bowman, but I misread that. It's still crazy no matter how you look at it. Brown's price tag has definitely come up, but I guess it really doesn't matter, right? Because he's not at a point. He's not necessarily at a point where you wouldn't want to play him. I think 5,300 seems reasonable given the stats that you just rattled off. Potential assists are certainly up there with the entire backcourt injured. I get it, man. It seems like this is sustainable. If not only he doesn't have to be great. You're playing upwards of 40 minutes a game. You can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, a lot of times when someone gets forced into the starting lineup, they just kind of take a back seat to everyone. He's legitimately playing point guard for this team.
For sure. Oh, yeah. No doubt. And I was very skeptical of that, by the way. When he was first announced as the point guard, I was skeptical of that because how often have we seen this Pistons team, run out a de facto point guard that doesn't really do anything. He's just in there to take up space.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I'm with you. All right, so just for anyone just tuning in or didn't catch everything, rank your top 4. We know Drummond's first, Bruce Brown second, and then you have go ahead.
Luke, yeah, so Drummond 1, Brown 2, Luke Kennard 3, and then Morris 4.
Did you ever think you'd be spending $6K on Luke Kennard and feel okay about it?
No, I mentioned it in the deep dive that like Kennard and Brown, because I wrote them up back to back, and it was just like both of these guys. Like if you had told me 2 weeks ago before the season started that 1, they would be $6K and 5,300, and 2, I wouldn't think they were bad plays. I would have laughed at you.
Exactly. I hear you, man. Hey, by the way, let me throw out Jafar. Thanks, brother. Just tipped us $10, man. Said thank you, Laffy and Adam.
That's awesome.
Not bad, huh?
I didn't even know you could do that.
I didn't even know we had that set up. Oh man, I had no idea. That's much appreciated, man. We really do appreciate you you watching and helping to support us here at Awesemo. All right, on the New York side, no, Josh, I know what Super Chat is, bro. I just thought like we had to set something up, but I guess not. Oh, okay. It just got turned on a week ago. So we're not crazy, Adam.
Yeah, okay.
We're not crazy. Gonna say, man, all this time and never a tip.
Right.
All right. RJ Barrett's been playing decent. He's getting a ton of minutes, but the salary is also getting up there. It honestly feels like, hey, if he's getting these minutes and Bruce Brown's getting these minutes, I'll go with the cheaper Bruce Brown.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Barrett's getting the minutes, even in blowouts. I think he played close to 40 minutes against Sacramento, leads the team in usage at 24%, but the salary's up there too. And, it's not even like it's really a comparable price point to Brown. So that makes it tough. You also have the lowest team total on the slate. So not really interested in Barrett all that much.
It's amazing. Earlier or towards the end of last week, I tweeted this. I did a little research. At the time, the only players leading their team in potential assists, rebound chances, usage, and touches per game were Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, and Julius Randle. Pretty crazy. Yeah. Julius Randle, not Jokic. He was behind Murray in usage. Kawhi Leonard was behind Lou Williams in touches, so on and so forth. But it was Julius Randle. It just feels like he doesn't have that same booming ceiling right now in New York as he did. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we just haven't seen it yet. But quickly, anything else that you like for the Knicks?
Yeah, the front court. So Randall, the usage isn't as high as we expected it to be coming into the season, but 24.5% expected assist percentage leads the team in potential assists, like you said. The peripherals just give him a really high floor and ceiling combination because he's still the second highest usage rate on the team behind Barrett. Should play around 34 minutes if this game's competitive. And we've seen these like multi-talented bigs have success against the Detroit front court. As a team, Detroit's been really bad defensively, and we've seen the guys like Sabonis and Collins have monster games. So I think with this price tag falling, Randall's a good play. And then in tournaments, I think Mitchell Robinson, not surprising to anyone, but I'm interested in Robinson because he's starting this game. They announced it yesterday that they needed him out there to match up with Drummond. Not that I expect him to play 38 minutes like Drummond does, but if they're starting him to match up with Drummond, it at least makes me think if he's playing well, he can get 26 to 28 minutes. He's cheap. Center outside of the top isn't really a stacked position today either. So Randall and Robinson are my 2 favorite Knicks.
Okay. Yeah, you and I like to talk, so we'll make sure that we get out of here by 6. But we want to give everyone the most comprehensive info as possible. Nothing I dislike more than throwing a name out there and not telling everybody why you like him. It doesn't do anybody any good. And we try to stay away from that, Adam.
Yeah, for sure.
Toronto and Sacramento. Let's talk about this Raptors-Kings game. 219 total. Raptors 8-point favorites, 113.5 total, 105.5 for the Kings. It's in Toronto. It's in the North. Let's start with the Toronto side of the ball. Kyle Lowry on DraftKings now above 8K. Van Vliet 6,300. Pascal Siakam is 8K. So you're seeing some of these guys, particularly Lowry, get that price spike, but Siakam's price has basically leveled out from the beginning of the season till now. He's not overpriced at all. Sacramento Kings team that has really just been crushed in a lot of defensive areas this season. They're playing at, I think, a pretty average pace. Where are they at? No, they're towards the bottom, actually. They're playing at the 26th fastest pace or 4th slowest pace this season. That's actually kind of surprising. Defensively, Adam, they rank 25th or 24th in defensive rating. So, I mean, it's not a very good Sacramento team defensively. The Marvin Bagley injury didn't help them either. What are you doing with Toronto today?
I think this is one of the less appealing games on the slate. You mentioned Kyle Lowry, who's playing monster minutes. He's averaging over 38 minutes a night. That's really, really appealing. But the issue is that, you just have so many guys, so many guards in particular on this slate that are similarly priced and I think, just project a little bit better. It's hard to prioritize Lowry. The one guy from Toronto that I do think is a priority is Pascal Siakam, because as I mentioned before, the forward position today really isn't that deep. Like, there's tons of guards. There's a lot of really good centers at the top. The forward position is I think the weakest on the slate, and you're getting Siakam at a really favorable price tag against a weak Sacramento defense. I don't really know who on this defense is slowing him down. He's involved, in all categories, should play 34 plus as long as Sacramento can stay in this game. So I do think that Siakam is a really good play. And then guys like Lowry and Gasol are just kind of secondary options that I'll probably get to a little bit.
How about how about the Sacramento side? We saw a really solid, in some sense, breakout season from De'Aaron Fox last year. He's not getting a lot of attention this season. He's had 2 awful games, but outside of that, he really has been that same consistent player that we've seen in that, high 30, low 40 fantasy point range. He's getting up, 17 shots a game. Usage is up there. The problem is, it is a good Toronto defense, and we've got a ton of teams and a lot of guards to choose from.
Yeah, exactly. I think that he's pretty easily the top play from Sacramento for me, but it still just kind of leaves him as a secondary option. He grades out really similarly to Kyle Lowry when you factor in price for me. Tough matchup. He does have a 28% usage rate. He has a 28.5% expected assist percentage. He's playing 36 minutes a game. All that's great, and it means that he certainly can exceed his salary. But when you're trying to put probabilities on other guys exceeding their salaries, I think that there's still plays that are better than Fox.
For sure. What about the rest of the Kings?
Nope.
Yeah, me neither. One of the worst teams to target, maybe the worst team to target tonight. Would you agree?
Yeah. I think Orlando's probably worse.
Yeah, you may have more interest in Utah than I do too, but we'll get there when we do. Man, we got the greatest viewers in the world. El Negro Loco, our guy. He's been with us for a minute. I'm not going to read what he said, but it's hilarious, and I suggest everyone does. Thanks for the donation. Patrick Land says, please buy yourself a copy of The Little Mermaid, Adam. I don't know why. Does that ring a bell?
I'm trying to remember what that could refer to, but I don't know.
All right. And Braden Hoffman, $5, Popeyes for Laffy. We got the greatest viewers in the world, man. Houston and Golden State. 2 of the worst defensive teams in the league. Like, who would have thought, right? Seriously, who would have thought? I know Golden State was anticipated to not be great, but 231.5 total. Did you see this? The Rockets are 15-point favorites. I mean, it's crazy. 123.3 implied total, the highest on the slate by 7 points. And then, of course, you've got a total here sitting at a modest 108.3 for the Warriors. But before we get into the game, let's just break this down for a quick second, right? The Warriors are dead last in defensive rating. The Rockets are 28th, all right? Pace of play, Golden State Warriors really not playing at an elevated pace, right smack dab in the middle of the league, but Houston is second in pace. They have been so awful from a defensive standpoint and playing at an elevated pace that we've seen some of the craziest scores that we've seen in a while in regulation. They're allowing 40% three-point shooting to their opponents this season, and it gets even better. They're allowing 38 three-pointers per game, which the craziest part is the Bucks are allowing 41 and the Heat are allowing 39. So that's not even at the top of the league. I could go on forever, like the 124 points or 123 points allowed in regulation per game for the Rockets, 120.4 for the Golden State Warriors. Combined, these teams are allowing 245 almost points per regulation. It's insane.
Yes. Sorry, I was reading chat for like the first time ever.
Oh, you got to I would tell you you got to start reading it, but then I worry because it is great. Chat has been great. Then I worry that you are going to just 100% disappear, and I won't. And I'll say stuff, and you'll just forget we're even here.
You mean like just happened?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. No. So I mean, I know we're talking about the Golden State Houston game, but yeah, I think that. There's obviously blowout risk here, but it's not something that I would be too concerned about, especially because where the production's coming from for Houston. So Harden and Westbrook both. Westbrook, I think, is incredibly underpriced, especially on DraftKings at 9,400. He's fine at 10-3 on FanDuel as well. Harden, I think, even though his salary came up, he's still my second highest projected player on the slate behind Giannis, and he's a little bit cheaper than Giannis. So obviously love both of those guys against a terrible Golden State defense. Clint Capella's salary is really affordable. The issue is just that we've continuously been seeing PJ Tucker close games at center, and Golden State obviously doesn't have a center that's going to force Capella to be out there. So I think you run some risk there. Eric Gordon's out, so you should get probably 36 minutes for House, the normal 34 for Tucker. And then I have Austin Rivers and Ben McLemore at 26 apiece. Not any confidence in those guys, but they are cheap enough where if you want to roll the dice on them as, a punt play in tournaments, the minute should be there at least.
No question. My boy Steve Finkelstein and I go back a while. He donated and said, "Beautiful cam girls." Anyone that knows Steve understands that one. And here's what I love, right? I get blamed for the bad calls, and then you get credit. It's the clinic says Devontae Graham call by Adam won me 4,500 last night. Thank you guys. Congratulations, man. Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, he knows that I was the one DMing you and getting you to put him in the deep dive article yesterday.
No, look, you did mention we did talk about him here, and you did too. But either way, $4,500, very, very solid work, man. Appreciate you. Okay, so let's do this because this game is. I would be shocked. The only way this game doesn't see a ton of points is if these teams just shoot terribly. Like what I'm saying is defense is not going to slow them down, right? What do you make of? We'll start with the Warriors. Who did you just hit on? Because I was reading chat.
I went through the Rockets.
Okay. Golden State. Kai Bowman is similar to Bruce Brown recently, outside of the fact that he hasn't been as productive, but he's played 39 minutes and 37 minutes respectively over his last two games. The usage isn't great. Assist rate is solid, double-digit potential assists per game, and averaging 93 touches per game over that span. His time of possession, by the way, is sixth highest in the entire league over that two-game stretch, which is also pretty impressive. And then you've just got a really struggling Houston defense. Does Kai Bowman have any interest to you at all? Or once again, do you see yourself getting down to a Bruce Brown at a discount? Because normally I wouldn't be anywhere near Bowman. But last time I looked, his projected ownership was 0.1%.
He's at 12.5 on draft.
Okay. So that'll do it, right?
Yeah, and I think Bowman is fine. There's a couple of reasons I prefer Brown if you're picking between the two of them. One is that on DraftKings, you have forward eligibility from Brown, which is a much easier position to get them in at. Kai Bowman is only a point guard. Also, Kai Bowman is a little bit more expensive than Brown. But I have them projected similarly. Bowman does have a little bit lower usage rate, but the assist opportunities are similar. The peripherals are very similar, and it is a huge a really, really fast-paced game against Houston. With Westbrook back, they're going to be back to being like the fastest team in the league. And so I don't have any issues with Kai Bowman, but I think if you're choosing between the two, there's a couple things that just kind of put Brown a little bit ahead of Bowman, especially because right now we have Bowman at 12% on DraftKings. We have Brown at 10.
No question. And I'm with you there. I do like if Bowman though was going to get zero ownership like we saw earlier today, I would have had quite a bit of interest. I still don't think he's a bad play though. Like,
No, I would expect like I think 12% is pretty efficient. Like I would expect that
yes,
come around 12-15%.
totally agree. But like I said, if he was down there at 1%, he might be one of my preferred plays on this slate just based on the atmosphere of this game. What about the rest of Golden State? We saw last time out, you had some very big performances from Paschal, 55 fantasy points. Kai Bowman was solid enough. Like bad teams still need to score points, and they will score points against Houston. Where do they score the points?
Yeah, I think that there's like 6 guys on this team that still grade out as above average values for me. They're not the great values that they were before their salaries came up, but we know where their minutes are going. The rotations have been pretty predictable without Russell or Curry or Green. We know where the production's coming from. So, Eric Pascal at 6,500, it's not like it's a great value, but he's still got a little bit of value left on that salary. The same goes for, Jordan Poole at 4,500 and, I think Glenn Robinson at 4,800. The one guy I would point out, we saw 28 minutes from Alec Burks last game. First game we'd really kind of seen him unleashed. He's only played a couple of games. If you just look at his numbers with Golden State, it's like a 6% usage rate. But if you go back to his time with Cleveland last year, which I think is pretty similar to the current makeup of the Golden State team as far as there being nobody on the team, he had about a 19.5, 20% usage rate. He shot the ball 12 times last game in his 28 minutes. So I think that with him being the cheapest out of the group, he's a good option, even though he doesn't have quite the usage that guys like Poole and, Damian Lee are going to have.
All right. Makes sense to me. Top plays from this game.
Harden, Westbrook. And then I really just have like all the Golden State guys really, really similar. I would say that Eric Pascal is probably my favorite just because he's a forward.
Okay. I like it. Let's keep it moving here. Deeper Dive, by the way, one word is the sign-up code to get 50% off your first month at awesemo.com. Go to awesemo.com/join. Click that begin membership. It'll ask you a question. What type of player are you? Serious, hobbyist, professional? And we do that so we can cater the subscription to your needs. So you're not getting too much and too little for what you like to play. Also, if you're on awesemo.com/join, you scroll down, you can check out tutorial videos on almost all of our premium tools so you know exactly what you're getting. There's the Fantasy Cruncher add-on as well, Adam and my deep dive that we write every day, and so much more premium content that we'd love to share with you. Premium Slack chat as well. Hop in there when you sign up, say what's up, and we'd be happy to show you around. Deeper Dive, one word, is the code that gets you 50% off your first month at Awesemo Plus membership. Atlanta, Chicago. I mentioned yesterday that Levine was one of my pivots off of DeRozan, and both of these guys were pretty similar. I think Levine outproduced him a bit, but he just continues to give us decent games, and he's going to have some bad games too, Adam. He will. But Levine has a pretty high ceiling given what we're working with in Chicago. On the other hand, and I want you to speak on both of these guys, Lauri Markkanen, when I first saw his price tag, I thought to myself, all right, man, this is, yesterday was a little bit different, but at 6,400, I can get with that. But man, you want to talk about an extreme slump. This dude is in bad shape. 221.5 total here. Hawks 2-point favorites, 111.8 total for them, 109.8 for the Bulls. Let's start though with the Bulls side. Zach LaVine, it is a back-to-back, 34 minutes last night, but he's a young fella. I'm not too worried about him. The question is, do you fit him in today against an Atlanta team in what should be a pretty high-scoring affair?
Yeah, I think he's a decent option here. The usage has been down a little bit from what we saw last season, but still 28.8% for the season. And we know that he's the kind of player where if he's making his shots, you're going to get a much higher than average usage rate in that particular game, which is really all that you can ask for in tournaments. So I do think it's a good matchup against Atlanta. And, whereas you have De'Aaron Fox with similar rates, but just that tougher matchup against Toronto, I'd give the edge to Zach LaVine here. It should play anywhere from 32 to 34 minutes as long as the game's competitive. And if he's scoring, that he'll shoot a lot more. So I do like him a lot.
Okay.
It's just, it's tough because of the guard position. Like I still have Brogdon ahead of him.
Sure.
I still have Beal ahead of him.
What about Markkanen and anyone else for Chicago?
Kobe White is probably going to be my highest owned guy from the Bulls. He's been $4,500 to $5,000 pretty much the entire season on DraftKings. He's down to 3,600 today, and that's not really due to anything that I can think of. He played 24 minutes last night. He played 24 the game before that. He's basically been backing up Otto Porter and then playing a couple minutes alongside of him, but he is the scorer off the bench. He has a 24.7% usage rate this year, and the limited minutes made it really tough when he was 4,500 to 5K, because you basically had the hope that he played well to like hit value, but it was pretty unlikely he exceeded it. Now at 3,600, at close to a minimum price tag, when all the guys on Golden State are more expensive than that, I think that Kobe White's a good value option.
Okay. Do you want to move to the other side in Atlanta?
Yep.
Yeah. How about Trae Young though? Yesterday, like limited to 30 minutes. He plays basically 30 minutes on the nose, has 29 and 13 assists. I mentioned this yesterday. Who cares if he's efficient or not, Adam? Like against the, Greg Popovich coach team that's good at slowing, or that's good at containing the opposing team's best player. Who cares? He's so involved that it really doesn't make a damn difference when it comes to Trae Young. And I mean, look, you're talking about 30 minutes from this guy, and in this game, 30 minutes, actually a little bit less than 30 minutes, and he still had 79 touches in 30 minutes. I'm assuming his potential assists were not only high, but given his restrictions, probably through the roof, because on the season, he's already averaging a lot of them. He's just producing in every category. And we're seeing now that even if he's not efficient, he's going to be able to put things together. 18 potential assists for Trae Young last night.
Yeah, he's obviously amazing. For the season, 37.8% usage rate. I have him with a 38.9% expected assist percentage, which I think is a little bit lower than his actual, but still obviously really high. Haven't seen anything on his minutes tonight. I have him at 30.
I've been looking too.
Yeah, I have him at 30 just because I don't know, it would make sense to me to have him at 30 on both ends of the back-to-back, but hopefully we get that news. But either way, even in 30 minutes, he clearly can exceed a $9,100 salary. The problem is that when you think of it in terms of probabilities, you have him at 9,100, you have Westbrook at 9,400. I think Westbrook's more likely to be the one that does it. I think an $8,600 Beal is more likely to do it. Same for an $8,100 Brogdon, but he's certainly a pivot to those guys because the ceiling is virtually the same.
All right, David Hanna, much love, brother. We appreciate you. Okay, top plays from Atlanta. Anybody you really like here? Jabari Parker's price has come up. Of course, we already talked a little bit about DeAndre Hunter, but let's go ahead. Let's talk about this stable of wing players that I wish didn't exist. Not because I don't think they're great people. I'm sure they are, but because it's just I hate choosing between players like this. It's never enjoyable at all.
Yeah, there's no way to like pinpoint which one has a good game.
Exactly right. Yeah.
The one reason I'll give DeAndre Hunter an edge over all these guys, despite my biases against him, are
worst offensive player in the history of basketball. Actually, that's what you said, right? That's what I said.
Despite your opinion on him, he played like 36 minutes last night. He has a clear path to big minutes. And he's still cheap. So it's not like I love him. I just think that if I'm choosing between him, Herter, Reddish, Bembry, like I'd give the edge to Hunter. Jabari's price tag came up real quick. So it makes it tough to really like him. There's nobody on Atlanta I think is a priority. I would say Young and Hunter are going to be my two highest owned guys from the Hawks, though.
Okay. Anything else on this one?
No. Let's
talk Memphis, Minnesota. We do our NBA premium syllabus each day, which is, 5 or 6 of us put our top plays, our favorite tournament play, the biggest bust, which position you want to pay up for, pay down for, best and worst team to target, and our favorite contrarian play and why. You got to love it. Across the board, favorite cash game player from all 6 of us today, Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, he's 10K on DraftKings. I don't really know how to get away from that. We have him right now as the highest owned player, but it's not even like, with it being a 9-game slate, it's not even like you're talking about a 75% owned Towns or something. We have him at 30%. So, it's a fast-paced Memphis team. It's not a Memphis team that should be particularly good defensively. Towns his rates this year are actually a little bit lower than expected, but he's obviously still had some monster games. But if you go back and look at last year without Derrick Rose or Jimmy Butler on the floor, which is basically the same circumstances he has now, he had a 31.3% usage rate, 21% rebounding percentage, 20% assist percentage, averages over 1.6 points per minute. And, again, it's a good spot. You also have Jeff Teague questionable for this game and Shabazz Napier doubtful. So if Teague were to be ruled out, you should see even more playmaking opportunities for Towns because they would be without both of their point guards. So it's kind of like either a great spot for Towns or the best spot he's had all season.
Yep. And we know that Towns and Teague do affect each other quite a bit. One affects the other as much as he affects him, whatever I just said. The funny thing is, exactly what I meant.
Yeah, I know what you meant. And I know that you worded it terribly.
Oh, awful. Who's he and who's him? Nobody knows. Jarrett Culver.
Yeah, I think even if Teague is in, assuming Napier sits and he's doubtful, Culver's played mid-20s the last couple of games. Both games were blowouts, but clearly, he can play that many minutes. But I expect him to get more run without Napier at the very least. And then if Teague's out, that's a lot of minutes that open up. They called up Jordan McLaughlin from the G League, but he's not someone that I expect to be taking, huge amounts of run from someone like Jarrett Culver. So 3,200 on DraftKings. It's a situation where he doesn't have to be that productive to pay it off, and he certainly is capable of it.
All right. Hit that 700 likes. We already got there, 714. Nice work, everyone. We appreciate it. Deep dive will be unlocked over there at awesomemode.com. Flip that, toggle that switch to free for tonight. Anything else for the Minnesota Timberwolves?
No, I mean, Wiggins and Covington both are guys that I think are a little bit underpriced for their ceilings, but they don't stand out as like core plays for me.
Yeah, I think Covington's fine, but not a top play. Agreed with you there. On the Memphis side of the ball, Ja Morant's going to have some pretty big games, but he's also going to have some down games. And, he's played fewer than 30 minutes in all but one contest this far, which is very tough when you're priced where he is. And then Jonas Valanciunas, one of the best per minute guys in the league. His minutes are trending upwards, 24 in back-to-back games, but there's still that concern that, he won't see the run that we need. He is a great per minute guy, though. If he gets 25 minutes, you could see him breaking a slate. But the minutes and price tags on a lot of these guys make it a bit difficult. By the way, Jaren Jackson Jr. is active for tonight's game after missing last one.
Yeah, I'm interested in Valanciunas here. His minutes have been trending up. He only played 24 last game, but he did pick up
2 in a row. He played 24, which is why I was a little nervous that maybe we're leveling out.
Yeah, the reason I'm not sure about that, though, is that in the second quarter last game, he did sub out at the 4:01 mark after picking up his second foul. I assume he was going to play at least a couple more minutes there, if not finish the half, which would have put him at like 28 for the game. He also subbed out in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes and 22 seconds to go, which is not too long before Capella subbed out. Yeah, I don't know. I think that he probably, I have him at 26 minutes here, but also when the centers are him and Brandon Clark and you're going up against Karl Anthony Towns, I just think that Valanciunas probably will play as many minutes as Memphis is willing to have him play.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that had anything to do with it, though, because he had 2 fouls, not 3 fouls in the second half, right? Or in the first
second
half.
Quarter. He subbed out.
That's what I meant. Second subbed out. He had got 2 fouls, but that was still his first and his second, right?
Yeah, he subbed out as soon as he got the second one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But there's still so much upside there, it doesn't matter. Thoughts on the rest of the Grizz?
I think Jackson's a little underpriced. Obviously, the risks that come with him, but he does have the third highest usage rate on the team behind Morant and Valanciunas. Ford's pretty weak, so I'll have some Jackson, but again, not a priority.
Okay, let's talk Orlando. Let's talk Dallas. 208.5 total over under. Sorry, second lowest behind only the Knicks, or ahead of only the Knicks and the Detroit Pistons. Mavs are 7.5 point favorites here at home. 108 implied total. 100.5. It's really tough to have a total that low in today's basketball, in today's NBA. It certainly is, but it's an ugly spot when you're looking at Orlando. Adam, dude, it's ugly here. Markelle Fultz in the starting lineup, he's been pedestrian, if that. Nikola Vucevic, he's been really, really modest in terms of production this season. There are some guys that we're going to play this year, but this does not feel like the day to jump on the Orlando train.
Yeah, pretty tough spot in terms of just pace and everything else. Vucevic's rates are down across the board. Fournier has like the best rates on the team, but it's still Evan Fournier, who's not particularly good. decent pricing on those guys, but nothing that really jumps out either. Terrence Ross is out for this game, so I gave a couple extra minutes to Fournier. I gave a couple extra minutes to Fultz. Gave a couple extra minutes to Aminu, but even doing that, nothing really made a huge difference.
Okay, I hear you. What about the Mavs?
Luka obviously is, I think, a really good play here. It's an unappealing spot because Orlando plays slow and they're a really good defensive team. But when you have someone of Luka's caliber at a pretty inexpensive price tag, he's still only 9,800 on DraftKings, 30.8% usage this year, 43.4% expected assist percentage. And with all the other options on the slate, we only have Luka coming in at about 12% projected ownership. So, I don't like him as much as I like Westbrook or Harden, but I would rather, I have Luka ahead of Bradley Beal and Trae Young.
Can you get to anything else for Dallas?
Dwight Powell is only 4K. He's only a center, which is unfortunate on DraftKings. It would be easier if he had power forward eligibility, but he's played 28 minutes in each of his last couple of games. He hasn't been productive whatsoever, but historically he's been around the 1 fantasy point per minute guy. So with a lack of great value on this slate, I think he's in the mix.
Okay, Philadelphia, Utah. Should be a fun game. Jazz 2-point favorites, 211.5 over under, 106.75 for the Jazz, 104.75 for the Sixers. This game, with Embiid back, it's tough for me to fall in love with anyone here. Donovan Mitchell's likely going to get a ton of opportunities. Guys like Devin Booker. This team last year was hammered by ball dominant guards. You remember we had this discussion a lot. It should have changed. There's no question this should have changed, but we're already seeing a little bit of it this season where, good shooters like Devin Booker are just finding ways to score. But at the same time, this is still going to be one of the better defenses in the league. The same can be said for the Utah Jazz, who right now rank first in the league in defensive ratings. The Sixers rank 6th in defensive rating. Meanwhile, the Pacers are 29th in pace. So this whole game, can you find pieces because these guys are good basketball players? Yeah, but it certainly is not a standout spot for me on either side.
Yeah, I agree. It's a game that just is a much better real life game than DFS game.
For sure.
DraftKings specific $4,400 Josh Richardson is an okay value. It's obviously a tough matchup. He takes a usage hit, a rebounding hit, and an assist hit with Joel Embiid, but should play 32, 33 minutes. So on DraftKings specifically, I think he's okay. Embiid is just really tough to get to when you have Towns and Drummond playing monster minutes on the same night in better matchups.
Okay. Talking, well, actually, do anything else you want to touch on? I'll let you go if there's anything you do want to get to outside of Richardson and Embiid.
Nothing more than secondary plays for me from this game.
Okay, both sides, right?
Yeah, Conley, Mitchell are fine. I'm not going to be upset if they get in a lineup, but they're not guys that I'm building my night around.
Well, good. We actually planned this out well. We got a couple minutes to talk about a game that needs to be discussed. Live before lock with Eddie Fear and Josh Engelman is going to take you up to lock from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern time, coming up directly after us. Don't go anywhere. Stay right here on the stream. And hit us with that thumbs up if you like the show. It helps us out a lot. We appreciate it. Appreciate it all. Subscribe, hit that notification bell as well. Okay, so no Kawhi Leonard. Lou Williams with a 35% usage rate this season, 35.6 and 126 minutes with Leonard off the floor. Only 1.14 fantasy points per minute, but that's a silly usage rate, 33% assist rate. Lou Williams clearly going to have a lot of ownership, and for good reason. I like him quite a bit at a pretty discounted price, and I have no problem with Montrezl Harrell because Montrezl Harrell, the bulk of his assisted field goals actually come from Lou Williams, and they run the pick and roll quite a bit where they've been very proficient. It's a combo on that 1-2 punch that seems to work out quite well, but it is a good Milwaukee team. What are you doing with the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard out?
Yeah, really like Lou, really like Harrell. Both their salaries are just too cheap for the opportunities they're going to have. You mentioned Lou with the 35.5% or usage rate without Leonard. Harrell's at 31% this year. They work really well together. Williams started the last game without Leonard. I don't know if that'll be the case tonight. One of the Clippers beat writers said that he thought it would be Harkless just for defensive purposes, but I don't expect that to have a big impact on Williams' minutes or usage or anything else. So I don't really care. I think if anything, it makes Harrell more effective because it's just more minutes for him alongside Williams. So those two, really stand out. As far as value goes, you have Harkless and Landry Shamet. Harkless potentially getting the start, could be used for defensive purposes because they need someone to try and slow down Giannis. And then Shamet, who normally I don't really like to roster, but he could play big minutes here. And Milwaukee has allowed the most 3-point attempts per game. Shamet's the best 3-point shooter on the Clippers. So it's a spot where, with questionable value, he's someone that probably goes completely overlooked. And it could just be one of those nights where Shamet goes nuts.
No minute limit for Trae Young tonight. I repeat, no minute limit for Trae Young. Definitely makes him a more appealing option now that we have clarity on that. Milwaukee, close us out. What have you got here? Giannis Antetokounmpo. I know that Eric Bledsoe has got a spot in your heart for tonight's slate.
Yeah, those were the two guys that I think really need to be talked about. Obviously Giannis, it's tough to get tons of Giannis because he is more expensive than all the other guys like Drummond and Harden and Westbrook, and Towns. But at the same time, that will keep his ownership down. We have him at about 10% right now. And there's no real way that the Clippers are defending him. You're going to get some Pat Beverly. You're going to get some Harkless. You might get some JaMychal Green, but none of those guys should be expected to be that successful against Giannis. Monster usage, monster assist percentage, monster rebounding percentage. The only real question this year has been fouls and minutes. And obviously we can't project the fouls, and minutes should be there as long as it's not a blowout. So still a good tournament play. And then Bledsoe hasn't reached 30 minutes in regulation yet this year because of foul trouble, blowouts, and George Hill being a pretty decent backup. So obviously that's really concerning, but the rates are really, really good. He has a 24.3% usage rate. He has a 37.5% expected assist percentage. He's 15th in the NBA in potential assists per game, despite averaging 25 minutes per game, which is really, really good. So whenever you get someone whose rates are there and the salary's low and the ownership's low, it doesn't take a lot for him to, have his first game where he plays 31, 32 minutes. Like, it's going to happen at some point this year. And if that happens, it's just a situation where he can actually win you a tournament.
Okay. I love it. There you have it. 9 up, 9 down. That'll do it for us. Thanks for hanging out. As always, Adam and I will be back with you tomorrow on the Deeper Dive, same time, same place. Good luck tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow. The Deeper Dive presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Engelman Fear coming up next. It's Live Before Lock.
There we go. Live Before Lock, Wednesday, November 6th. Myself, Fast Eddie Fear, here to break down our lovely 9-game slate. Got to get the plugs out of the way first, and it's a big one for me today. Shout out to Fantasy Draft for being the presenting sponsor of Live Before Lock. Had a little bit of a bink on Fantasy Draft yesterday. Nothing too crazy, but I took down their $5, so I'm very happy with the boys at Fantasy Draft right now. They are the only rake-free daily fantasy site in the industry. That is a large reason why I play there. You can get into the $300,000 Hooters Baller this week for Week 10 in the NFL, or come join me in their $5 contest on the NBA. I'll be in it again today, and I'm coming to return I want to be the return champ. I'm going back to back.
You defend the belt.
I am defending the belt. I am the reigning defending undisputed champion of the $5 buy-in.
Can I be your hype man as you enter the tournament? Can I get out there and Paul Heyman it and be like,
I would love it.
Give you some pub.
I would love it. I would totally love it.
We should set that up. Ask him how much that would cost it when you enter. It said there's a thing, a little video comes up. Stop what you're doing, ladies and gentlemen. You're reigning undefeated in the last 24 hours. Champion. Yeah, exactly.
So come play at Fantasy Draft. Use the promo code AWESOMO when signing up. Get a 7-day free trial at completely rake-free DFS. You won't pay a single cent, up to $1,000 in entry fees. Also, use the promo code LiveBeforeLock when signing up at awesomeo.com for 50% off your first month. I had the link up before the show, or between the shows. We are doing a bit of a giveaway. I want to pull that up right now just so you guys can go hit it, and then we can dive into a ton of news coming out. Head to our Twitter account at awesomeo_com. We've got a pinned tweet. If you can guess the player who has the most fantasy points on tonight's NBA slate, you can win an NBA Awesomeo Plus season pass. It's a $400 value. Just retweet, like, and reply. Follow both accounts, awesomeo_com and Awesomeo NBA. You can get that information via our Twitter account. Go check it out. Fast Eddie Fear. How you feeling about Karl Anthony Towns today?
Yeah, it's funny that it's a good segue from the most points on the slate. That's what it is, though. You're supposed to guess just the most fantasy points on the slate
today.
Well, that would be one of a few names that would get up there. I have a feeling I would answer James Harden about 3 days a week, and this would probably be one of them. But Karl Anthony Towns, a perfectly reasonable,
decent shout.
Yeah, he's in the conversation. Karl Anthony Towns, he's extremely good at basketball. He's extremely good at fantasy basketball. He's very good at basketball. Yeah. He's extremely good at fantasy basketball, especially on this team, which has ceded him more responsibilities as far as playmaking goes, and the minutes are creeping up, and their pace is out of this world. It's just wonderful. And yeah, $10,000 is too cheap. Looking at the top of the order, if you will, and again, it ends up being a little site dependent today, like it is every day. It's really interesting choosing above, these studs where you have obviously the Houston Golden State game, which has a massive line in it, but is also, the largest over-under in a couple teams that just can't play defense. Or let me rephrase. You have one team that can't play defense and one team that's choosing not to.
That's a good way to put it. That is definitely a good way to put it.
Like the Warriors, that's fine. No one expects you to defend James Harden, Russell, but like you're never supposed to. You're not even like, the Matisse Thybulles and the various guys who are coming into the league where this is their specialty. Like you're not supposed to be able to stop them. So that's just fine. But the Rockets, I had a conversation the day before yesterday where I was like, they look terrible defensively, just awful.
Real bad.
And this is a team that, last year was decent, and the year before that was legit very good. And we had to go, no, hold up. I know this is Mike D'Antoni. I know this is 7 seconds, but their defense was respectable. It was legitimately very, very good. It was going to take them to a title and take me to a 6-figure payday. And then someone got hurt and they missed 17 successive threes. I'm not going to let that go ever. Anyway,
pour one out for Jeff Bzdelik, I guess, for the Rockets.
Oh yeah, seriously, they moved that guy. For those of you who don't know, one of a couple key members of the coaching staff on that team who have moved on in recent times. And much like you talk about, the Cubs pitching coaches and the Cardinals pitching coaches, various guys in various sports. That he was apparently holding stuff together because it has come apart at the seams.
It really has.
Obviously, we're only a half dozen games in, but there was actually why I mentioned it was like 10 hours after I had a conversation on it for 15 minutes. An article came out on The Athletic, which had a section which was basically like, what the heck is going on with the Rockets defense? Because they have a couple guys who should be tolerable, and you have PJ Tucker out there who, like, I love watching that guy play defense. Yeah. So you would think that, no, they're by any metric, bottom 3, bottom 5 in the NBA as far as defensively right now, and they shouldn't be that bad. Like, House is legitimate. Harden had improved to nearly average. Westbrook is energetic. Like, they're not supposed to be good, but they should have found their way up to average. So yeah. So it's difficult to not put James Harden or Russell Westbrook in your lineup unless you're thinking that game goes sideways. Like, that's what makes it a viable option. Like, if we look at our ownership projections tonight, we have less than half the people playing either of those guys on DraftKings where they're both really underpriced.
It's crazy, right? Like that's how bad Golden State is now.
Right.
That they're turning James Harden at an under. Let's just talk. I mean, just for James Harden, he's dramatically underpriced, and they're turning him into a guy where it's just like it just might be over immediately.
Yeah, and he's like the 10th owned guy. Like he's now approaching an appropriate price. His appropriate price in a neutral matchup, probably relative to the rest of, and again, obviously everyone is low, so he's almost appropriately priced now because Towns is too low and Westbrook is too low, and so many guys who are too low that. But if they didn't have this weird cap truncating thing on the top of their curve right now, James Harden should cost 12 to make sense. Like James Harden is going to average somewhere in the high 50s to low 60s in an average matchup right now, just based on the amount of time he plays. And D'Antoni, certainly a guy who doesn't take his foot off the gas, and blowouts, by the way, which I think would make me a little happier. Plus, I think some of the guys on the team might be a little happy to give Golden State just a, thanks for taking my ring away, that whole thing. But
probably a little bit.
I don't know. But yeah, really, really hard not to go with James Harden on FanDuel. I prefer on DraftKings, you can sort of sate your lust by playing Russell Westbrook. But it's them, and then Towns, and then Luka. Like, it's not a great matchup for Luka, although I've mentioned a couple times that I do think this is a defense that will push production more towards the guards and the wings than the bigs. So I think you may get a less exciting game out of Kristaps here, and that usage has to go somewhere, and it's not going to be Jalen Brunson or Dorian Finney-Smith or Dwight Powell. So like, there's still ridiculously monstrous Luka game. I mean, he's had plenty of bad matches. Luka's played 6 games this year. He had a bad game, and which he was battered around and various other things happened. And he has 2 games in the 50s, 2 in the 60s, and 1 in the 70s. He costs $9,800. I project him for 53 tonight, which I feel might be, a little conservative, because that's, it would be his 5th worst game of the year. Like, it would be.
I will say that I'm slightly more conservative than that, but I mean that very. I'm being. It's 51.9.
You in the high
51.9. I'm not so far off.
That's hilarious. Like, I don't know if yours are actually even publicly available. I don't know if yours are published on the site. Maybe they are, but yeah. Okay, so that's then I feel people have to believe me when I say it's funny how you and I have vastly different systems. We're usually within a point. Like, that's really quite something there. But there's all kinds of really compelling spend ups at the top, and it seems to come back to, what do you think's going to happen in that? I mean, they have to really, really, really demolish them for Harden not to beat the crap out of 11 and change, or Westbrook not to beat the crap out of 9-4.
Yeah, like when I think about it, it would blow my mind for one of them to not get there pretty easily. The only way that they don't, I think, is if like the game is just like the Warriors are in it, oddly enough.
And it's tough for me because I try to be, I try to watch infinite basketball and sort of know what's going to happen on the court, so I can depart from the numbers a little bit, and just have a sense, sort of. But I have no idea what to make out of this Golden State team. None.
Same.
No, like they've played 2 games with this, the entire team is hurt lineup. One in which they played Charlotte and lost against a JV Charlotte team and put up like 92 or something, and then another one where they legit beat up through the game a very, very good Portland Trailblazer team and put up 120 points or whatever. I really like, they're all priced very convincingly, and we have them all expected to be fairly popular, and they should be, especially the value guys. But it feels like there's a lot of uncertainty there, but it's going to be a juicy slate. The winning scores are going to get into the 400s. I don't know, take me somewhere and we'll talk about something, but it's I really love all these guys. I mean, it's juicy.
I think Golden State might be the place to go, because we've got 5 separate guys in double-digit ownership on FanDuel, 5 separate guys on DraftKings as well. 2 of those guys don't overlap. So at the very least, 6 legitimate options that are picking up some sort of ownership.
Pooley, Bowman, Pascal, Who's usually picking up the fifth one in the double digits?
It's Pascal Bowman, Robinson, Poole, Damian Lee, and Alec Burks.
Yeah, I always forget about Glenn Robinson.
A lot of people do.
Which I mean, dude's getting minutes. It's you look at the guys who are getting the preponderance of minutes. It's Pascal Bowman and Robinson. Robinson is not good at fantasy basketball, and the other two have had their prices raised. Not that we aren't still getting projected, high 20s in minutes out of Poole and out of Damian Lee
Right.
and out of other guys who are compelling at less of a price. But the guys who've really seemed to be the stalwart for minutes, getting into the mid to high 30s, have seemed to be those three guys. It is hard to look at anyone out of this game as that they're all priced very well.
Yeah.
So it feels very strange to look at this game and be like, yeah, I can see going with, I'm fine with 6 Rockets and 7 Warriors. Like, I really don't have any
Rockets.
Yeah, I think you can play Harden, Westbrook, Tucker, Capella, House. I lied, 7 Rockets, Austin Rivers, and Ben McLemore.
Okay.
I think are all perfectly interesting at their prices. And you got to remember, this is Mike D'Antoni, who loves running an 8-man rotation where 11 would make more than enough sense. No, I'm just saying. And they're man down today with Eric Gordon.
Right.
So I have Ben McLemore at 30 minutes and Austin Rivers at, I think, 26 and a half.
Okay.
Like, they're 3-something in a game that projects to be, all sorts of running, lots of running.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if one of those guys picked up really, really big minutes today.
Yeah, and they're 3,000. They're both 33 on DK. I want to say they're both close to the floor, obviously everywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of those 7 players in just an ideal game environment. And certainly, if you're not playing Westbrook or Harden, going to one of those other guys is even more attractive. So there's
right.
It's just a slate replete with value because you look at those guys in the 3.3 range. You have guys like Jarrett Culver who could pick up some extra time certainly in this spot. It's just there's tremendous amounts of good value all over the place. But yeah, starting there, my favorite guy at his price is probably barely Kiddie Poole, Jordan Poole, who came up small in the one game. I really liked him earlier this week. But that game aside, just projects to be the guy I like the most out of that second tier of players. I don't have him projected up with Bowman and Pascal, but I like him a little more than Lee. I like him a little more than Burks. The price isn't unreasonable, and the ownership disparity is not quite where it should be. So I do think Jordan Poole of those second tier guys is the guys I like the most. Who do you prefer between Kai Bowman and Bruce Brown?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me take a look. Let's see, 5,900, 4.1, 5,300. Kai Bowman.
Okay.
And for me, not super close.
Now counting price, because I think you're spending $800 to $1,000 or something on Bowman.
Yes, counting price.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. I have Bowman projected for a couple points more, and counting price, I have them almost identical, and our ownership has them almost identical. So that's really interesting close for me. What do you have them projected around?
I have Bowman at 34.8 if we're speaking DK points, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. Just 34.8 widgets, right? As long as I'm comparing the same two things.
Yeah, I mean there are players where it's a really relevant difference. Like
100%.
If you're talking about PJ Tucker, it's different, but no, for these two guys, it's going to be.
Bruce Brown 28.9.
Okay, I have him at 31.1 and 34.1 for Kai Bowman, I should say. So counting their prices, they end up pretty much the same for me. That's interesting. How many minutes do you have for Brucey?
35.
36. Okay, I have 36. Okay, there we go. So all the math's working out. I'm glad we could stop this basketball show and talk about math for a little bit because there's not enough of that in this industry.
Speaking of stopping the show for a little bit, guys, hit that like button. If you can get to 1,500 likes, ownership projections will be unlocked, and you guys are lagging behind.
Really?
Hustle with
that's
the
valuable.
Likes. Hustle
that
with
is
the likes.
Valuable. That's exciting. Ownership projections.
Yeah,
that's juicy. 1,500, huh? How many people we got watching me? Around 3K?
2883.
Slacking today.
Actually, 2912.
I blame Alex Len, although it was a good lesson. I spent more time talking about him than I liked yesterday, but I was like, yeah, I think I would have more than the field on Alex Len and less than the field on Goga. when we projected Goga to be in the 30s, and he ended up close to 50% owned. The theory being that, yeah, exactly. The theory being that I thought both teams wanted to play those guys into the high 20s in minutes. And I thought everyone was somewhat healthy, and Len, I think was experiencing some discomfort. It was the second half was weird. He came back for 2 minutes and then went out for 6, and then came back for 1 minute and 2 seconds, and then didn't return. So you ended up getting 14 minutes of Alex Len. Goga got into the 30s, but did overtime, and Goga had, and I had projected about a fantasy point a minute, and Len was close to it, and Goga got almost exactly that.
Yes,
and people were like, that was terrible. And I'm like, not really. He was like 1/6 owned Goga.
Right.
I think he outscores him more than every 7th time in that spot. Now, obviously, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't go back and do the same thing, but I didn't regret the choice at all. So really looking at ownership plays a lot here. Like I love Lou Williams today. I think he looks absolutely great. I think he probably starts again. I'm not sure, but it's not terribly relevant as far as his projection goes. It'd tick him up a minute or two and take his production down a tick or two. So it ended up pretty much neutral whether or not he starts. But the question is, Lou Williams is not the most consistent basketball player in the universe, and the matchup is fine to good. He looked good against them a couple times. I saw him against Budenholzer's defense last year. Had a game in the spring, I'm remembering. I want to say March. I think it's a fine spot. On a slate this juicy, do I want third highest owned player on the slate, Lou Williams? I mean, he looks good. He looks really good. I'm projected for 36.
Yeah.
That's just fine at his price, and obviously a guy who carries a massive ceiling. But just long way around of, I look at the ownership on some of the guys, and it's I don't have a strong take there. 30% Markieff Morris.
That guy is gonna kill me in some way. For sheer joy, if people get away from him and I still have a bunch of him, or he's going to drive me to like real negative stuff in my life. I don't know what to make of him. I will say I'm very high on Lou Will for tonight.
Yeah, it's by any reason. I don't know if your projection is similar to mine, but by any, it's just too cheap.
Yeah,
both sides.
Way
65,
way too cheap.
Yeah, way too cheap. You get Kawhi out of there. It does all sorts of good stuff. And I expect that game to remain competitive and be a game both teams play hard. So it's I'm trying to think of some other guys I'm going to comment on. I randomly like Ben Simmons a fair amount tonight. That's a good one.
Okay, talk to me about that. Obviously Utah, tough spot, and we've got Embiid back now. So this will be interesting. Hit me.
Yeah, Josh Richardson and Embiid himself are all still too cheap. They're not as too cheap as some of the other guys, but I don't hate the matchup for Ben Simmons with everything he does. He hasn't been quite as productive as I'd like him to be this year. I had a couple games where, it goes into Phoenix and you expect him to be more of an alpha on that team, especially with Embiid out. And he ends up, being the one guy who doesn't do much, took 8 shots and made 2 in that game. It's a little bit concerning. And obviously, Embiid gone is a huge thing for him, but he's 7,700. Like that price is getting really, really low. And again, for a raw production, no, I'm going to find a few $100 extra and I'm going to play Malcolm Brogdon, or I'm going to save some money and I'm going to play Lou Williams. So there's any number of places you can pivot to at that point. But he has played fairly well against Utah in the past. I think he's played Utah 4 times in his career, 3 of which with Gobert there, 3 of which with Embiid there, which is relevant contextually. But exceeded 50 fantasy points in 3 of the 4. So can manage the system to some degree. And I'm just excited to have a player who still has triple-double upside at, 6 or 7% owned. It's more of an ownership play than anything else. But I have some interest in Ben Simmons. I would end up, trying to get myself to 10, 12% Ben Simmons to get over the field there, because wouldn't surprise me if you got, 50 out of him isn't crazy. And for 7.7, that's a perfectly interesting number for me. Josh Richardson on the same team, 4,400.
His price is broken on DraftKings right now. I mean, he's kind of broken also. He's been averaging 0.78 FanDuel points per minute so far, but 4,400 is probably too cheap for a guy like him.
Yeah, and we'll round that down to 0.75 FanDuel points a minute. Not a great matchup. And Embiid is back when Embiid isn't there for all of his time. So it's appropriate to reduce that a little bit. But if he continues to play, we'll say 36 minutes, I think that times 0.75 would be 27 if I'm mathing that out right. And I'm not really concerned with that as a projection for a guy who costs 4,400. So
for sure,
we don't have him projected to carry more than I think 10 or 12% ownership last I saw.
No.
So those
nobody
two guys,
on the
and
Sixers getting anything really.
yeah, and well, I mean, Utah, it's a juicy slate. You have games like the Memphis Minnesota game, which I don't think is getting the pub it should, because that really should, and both those teams are moving.
Yeah.
So like that's some really nice pace going on in that game, and you're dealing with maybe minus a Teague. I don't know if that news has hit yet. I don't think it has. But we're dealing with oh god, Alex Len is starting. Really didn't want to have that conversation. House is starting. Trae Young doesn't have a minutes limit.
Yeah, that's I don't think it matters to me all that much.
Yeah, this is a team, the entire Atlanta PR department / coaching staff really loves announcing stupid minutes limit things. Like yesterday, I was on the show and they went, Horder's minutes limit increased to 30 to 35, and I'm like, that's great. He's not going to play that anyway, and he played 25. Like they've announced some news regarding minutes limits, it's 12 times in the last week, and 8 of them were irrelevant. Cam Reddish has increased to 35 minutes. That's great. He's not going to play that, so I don't know what the point is. He just doesn't have a functional limit. But there's I guess the hope is if you are playing Trae Young, which you're in the 9s again, so you're having the conversation with Luka and Westbrook, depending on what site you're looking at there.
Let's have that discussion quickly. So we've got Trae Young at 9,100, Russell Westbrook 94, Bradley Beal 86, Luka all the way up at 98. I mean, I think Russ is my favorite of anybody in that little group. I'd have a
points, yes.
Yeah.
But it just becomes he is also the highest owned of those 4 pretty significantly.
I'm
I think
assuming Trae Young's ownership comes up now at some point in time.
Yeah.
I don't mind getting to him though at 9,100 there, especially if the ownership stays low.
Yeah, I don't either. He's been nasty. I mean, yesterday in the show, he said 30 minutes. I'm like, he's not out of play. Dude can put up 60 in 30 minutes, and he really tried.
Aaron
Dude took some shots
starting.
too. Aaron got the start. Interesting. Yes. Okay. Wouldn't change a lot. Justin will get more minutes off the bench, but I'd now prefer Aaron.
Yeah.
So a slight change for me. And he's 3,300 or something.
That sounds
perfectly
right
compelling piece of value.
Aaron 31.
31.
Uh-huh.
Ho-ho.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I guess he needs to be at least mildly talked about quickly because 31 is so low.
And Washington.
Yeah.
And
24
no Lamb,
minutes?
No Lamb, no Turner. I think 26 or so based on what we saw previously with Sumner and the fact that I think that they swing the bigger guys down a little bit.
Yeah.
So they're starting Holiday alongst. Who else are they starting? If we have a full lineup, actually, because it actually would change things.
Brogdon, Holiday, Warren, Sampson, Sabonis.
Warren, Sampson, Sabonis. Okay. So go back into 24 off the bench, which is fine. You can still certainly play $4,200 go, maybe a little more. But yeah, based on their usage and what they did with Sumner previously, I think I'd go 26 or 27 actually for Aaron Holiday at this point, which I'd have some real interest in at 3,100. I don't think that many people get there.
It's a nice price for a guy that's going to play, mid-20s in minutes at a minimum, and who the hell knows if he's playing well.
Between the holidays, who are going to get a start, that's the one you would prefer. He's competent shooter and just picks up more peripherals, does more stuff
for sure
than you tend to get out of Justin. So, that's I like that quite a bit. I imagine he will still come in. I'm going to go mid to high single digits owned. I think he ends up being like 7 to 9.
That sounds right.
And I think I'd want to end up with a little more than that. So I like Aaron Holiday officially. That's nice. Yeah. The minutes will come down, or the minutes rather. The minutes are going to be the determinator as far as how good that is. But yesterday was interesting as you had sort of the small forwards who are the third option on their team on offense and will shoot 80% of the field and win you a GPP day with Gordon Hayward and TJ Warren.
Yeah, Hayward and Warren had themselves some days, huh?
Yeah, they did not miss many shots, which certainly helps. Although Hayward especially should get and some extra notice for doing a lot of other stuff too. He looked fantastic.
Oh, He's slowly become. I think he might be like most of the way back now. Slightly
Isn't
different
that
player, but
Yeah, isn't that great though?
I couldn't be happier.
Like it was so
disgusting.
I can't stand losing guys from injury, and it was revolting physically. Yeah, that too was the Cavs bench when it happened is still one of my favorite things ever. You ever get bored, anyone, go on YouTube, watch Gordon Hayward wreck his ankle, and watch literally the Cavs bench, which are large, grown men who engage in physical activity for a living, run away.
It was horrible.
They literally run. There's 8 guys on the bench, and 4 of them flee to the tunnle. It was so just because they're like, oh God, like hands on heads, and they run it. You can't actually see the injury, but the Cavs bench.
I turned it off after that. I couldn't watch it. I was
I've had a compound fracture in my leg too, so for me it's an extra. Hey, I remember that. Like, so it's not good.
Yikes. What else do we need to hit on? So you mentioned Memphis and Minnesota as a game that has some potential for you. Yeah. What's standing out to you? I'm taking a little bit of a look at Jonas. I'm taking a little bit of a look at Dylan Brooks on FanDuel at 4,400. Yeah. I don't think we have much to say about Karl Anthony Towns. I think most people understand that he's really good.
Yeah, it's a very good spot for him too.
Yeah.
He has, again, the pace is great. Other guys being limited or out, I think, is more of a positive than a negative for him. There's other times where, a point guard on your team is limited or out, and you think it, limits the guy more. I don't. I think would be more positive than negative. Just more the offense would run through. Has played well against all the guys on Memphis, whether you're talking about Jaren Jackson or J-Val in the past. Valanciunas is the first place I'm pretty excited to look here. I like Ja Morant a lot too in tournaments, but Valanciunas, especially FanDuel, by the way, I know you're a FanDuel guy. I think he's 6 flat there. You're looking at a reasonable chance that the minutes, continue to peak up a little bit for him.
Yep.
And neither Clark nor Triple J 100%, which conveniently helps with that. But the pace is great and has. I'm trying to remember the last time I saw him play against Towns. He trashed him. I guess I'm going to have to look up a box score here, but I remember thinking like these two guys are just not going to effectively play defense on each other.
He's my favorite center, dollar for dollar on FanDuel. It's just that the right tail of him is slightly limited because there is a ceiling to his minutes.
Yeah, there we go. March of last year. Both started. Valanciunas played 26 minutes. Towns played 33. Towns, 33 points, 23 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and a block. Valanciunas, 20 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 blocks in 26. So, yeah. So it's just, again, 1 game sample. Don't go crazy. I wouldn't project that for him, but it's certainly possible.
Just got an ownership update.
Ooh, let's look.
And where's he hiding? Indy. Goga at 10. Justin Holiday at 9. Where is Aaron Holiday hiding?
8.4.
You beat me to it. 8.4. Aaron Holiday. I think that's reasonable.
See? I said high singles. Yeah, that's about what I think. There's a lot of value.
Yeah.
So, and I wouldn't be trying to demolish that, but I have a feeling I would try to push for 15 or 20 or something if I was building on it.
I think that looks like a very reasonable number right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's see who else is at the top. So Karl Anthony Towns at the top, Markieff, Lou Will, we've touched on him, Malcolm Brogdon, we've touched on. 5th is Montrezl Harrell. There's a guy whose name we didn't really talk about. Clippers and Bucks, late night hammer. We did touch on the Clippers sort of, but they're getting a lot of ownership. Lou Will, Harrell, Beverly, Green, Mo Harkless. I think people understand what you're getting out of Lou Will and what you're getting out of Montrezl Harrell, but what do you think of the value plays for the Clippers? How would you put those guys together?
I'd probably start with, well, as far as pure value, I mean, they're sort of all value. I mean, like the most expensive guys on the team are 6'5", 6'2". I mean, that's not value per se, but there's no one that expensive when you talk about value. But against this particular defensive alignment, the way they're going to go, I would probably have JaMychal Green on top, a hair ahead of Landry Shamet.
We got news. I got to pause you already. Sorry.
Please.
Jeff Teague out.
And Shabazz Napier officially out? Doubtful was the last I saw.
No, nothing that I've seen. I mean, I've just been treating him as he's been out the entire time. But Teague out. That's... Whew.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that is more of a positive. I will say that it will also affect the pace a little bit. They called up what's his nuts for summer league, Jordan McLaughlin.
Yeah, I think they called up
Uh,
Jalen Noel too.
I didn't see that. I believe you. I have no reason to suspect otherwise. But
I think that's what I said.
really interesting to see what they do here. They have a number of guys who can handle the ball. I would rank their ball handling skills probably, oh God, Culver, Wiggins, Layman. But it'll be interesting to see how they modify this offense. I imagine they will start Culver, Graham, Wiggins um, out on the wings now. But it'll be it's gonna be interesting to see what they do there. Culver is, I think, 3,200 now. I'd have a fair bit of interest. There's a lot of these somewhat intriguing. I think I would. I'm gonna barely prefer Aaron Holiday, but that's fairly close for me. But
What is this?
again,
How does this change towns for you?
I imagine it would net out to pretty close to 0 for me. I do think the pace would go down. I think the efficiency in theory might go down, but you could get 51% usage for the game, and I wouldn't be terribly shocked at this point. He has a great individual matchup. He can move with the ball. He can run the offense through the high post. We've seen more of that this year. His assists upside, which had already been ascending a little bit more, picks up enough that I suspect is actually a slight net positive, but it wouldn't really change a ton for me.
No other news popping out now. I guess we could circle back. So I didn't mean to cut you off during the middle of
No.
Clippers talk, but that one was a biggie. So let's circle back to the Clippers Bucks game.
Yeah, I don't think Pat is out of play. He's minimum on FanDuel. I don't like playing Patrick Patterson. He doesn't do a whole lot, but you can go back and look at the other game this year. Kawhi sat, and I'd rather go to Pat than Mo Harkless. I think the last time we saw that, Pat played 29 minutes and Harkless 17.
Yeah,
I think are the minutes off the top of my head. But JaMychal Green, more expensive. Pat's the minimum on FanDuel, and I think 31 on DK. That'd be in play for me if he's going to play, 29 minutes. It's still Patrick Patterson. He is not a good fantasy producer. I don't know if he's north or south of the TJ Leaf line, but he's down there.
By the way, Napier game time decision.
See, now that's a party. So what time is that game?
That game is at 8:00.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for late swappity do into Shabazz Napier for 4,200 on DK.
I'm not pretty excited for late swappity do for Shabazz Napier on FanDuel because I can't do it.
They just can't do it. That's a good reason to be concerned.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I'd rather just ignore them and not guess.
Yeah,
I'm moving forward as if he is not playing.
I think that is more likely than not.
Yeah.
I mean, doubtful the game time decision historically for me is still like 2-1 doesn't play.
Right.
So if you get news playing and starting, guys, $4,200 is going to do a lot of work. It'll be worth the risk. The one way that the field, and I don't know if I know you don't play as much, if at all, on DraftKings, and so I know this would affect your take on this question, but I generally the populace as a whole has been very sharp this year. The one thing that I've been surprised at is how poorly they have late swapped. Like there's times it's like, oh my God, that news came out. This guy should be 50% owned, and he ends up 18. And I'm like, that seems to be the area in which there's still some poor use.
Napier's going to try to play. He's going to warm up, and they're going to see how he feels.
He took a spill, right? He has a thigh bruise or a butt bruise, or he has a bruise.
Hamstring.
Oh, hammy. Who am I thinking? Oh, all right, that's right. Yeah, he's got the hammy. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. Bruise would make me happier.
Right. He could go, and it could go in 2 minutes. So I feel pretty. Until you know that he is in, I'm treating him like he's fully out.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely
and then
perfectly.
If you're on DraftKings, I mean, feel free to put him in and swap out of it later. Like you can obviously get to whatever the goon is, one of those two goons that they called up from the G League.
Yeah, McLaughlin's decent. I don't hate Jordan for what it's worth. Watched a lot of him in the summer league. We talked about
who this person is. Obviously, you do as our summer league guru.
Yeah, he was good in the summer league. He won us some money. They went a long way. The Timberwolves were very good actually. But anyway. Let's see, other stuff. They finally started to price Kyle Lowry appropriately. So the free money we were getting there for a while with the whole Lowry without Kawhi thing, which obviously is every day now, but when there was that and they were running him out there 38 minutes.
Those dudes are playing some serious minutes.
Yeah, you wonder how long this can hold together. Like it seems, I'm surprised because it's not like I hate their bench. Like you stagger Van Vliet a little more and just let him play only 34 minutes, including backing up Lowry for 14. Then you throw more minutes at, I don't know, 9 minutes at Norman Powell and you avoid killing your best players. There's that. I think that's where I'd end up, but that's not what that's not what Nick's doing. So
maybe they just know that they're going to trade Kyle Lowry or something, and they're just going to, ride him till the wheels fall off.
He's got a ring and I do not, so I cannot criticize.
He does indeed.
Although Pat McCaw now out with surgery for a few weeks, so that situation may not improve.
That dude is just never on the floor.
Yeah, it's a shame. I kind of like him too. Although I will never not find the situation with him like holding out from Golden State weird.
To get
like he was barely playing and repeatedly getting rings. And they were offering him, and he's like, that's not enough money, y'all. Meanwhile, everyone else in the league is like, I could make $10 million. I'll take 2 and go to Golden State because I want a ring. Pat McCaw's like, no, I'm not all about that.
Yeah.
I need show me.
I think he got a little bit of extra money out of it and like a little bit more control,
but then he went to Toronto.
We went to Cleveland. He went to Cleveland for a second.
That's right. But he got to Toronto and got a ring.
He did get a ring.
He worked the whole system. He knew.
He did. He won titles in 3 straight years.
I know he's freaking James Jones up in here.
He's gonna be the GM of the Suns soon.
That's right. It's a great league. I love the NBA right now. Like I thought I loved the NBA when like the Warriors were crushing everyone, but now that like there's competition, who knew?
The NBA, it's better. Fantastic.
It really is. It's exciting.
Guys, hit that like button because the NBA is fantastic, and you guys are fantastic because there are 3,226 of you.
That's a good number. Let's talk about some other guys. I like Lauri Markkanen to break his streak. I like him to not be crap.
It has to happen eventually, right?
The minutes haven't been everything I want, but the Hawks at center, including the aforementioned Alex Len, are not good, and none of them, of the 3 guys who, again, in that game, you got 18 out of Damian Jones, 15 out of Bruno Fernando, and 14 out of Alex Len. Something like that was the minutes distribution. Len starting again tonight, by the way, who, if I was not so completely burned, I would say, yes, I would probably have some against the Bulls at 4,200 because he plays, and no one's going to own him because, again, we said yesterday, I said one of the reasons I think Goga is at the time going to be 3 times owned Alex Len, and it was 6, is that Alex Len has repeatedly kicked DFS players in the Jimmy again and again. And he did it again. So today we can presume on a bigger slate and a better slate with more value and better value that he's going to be about 1% owned. There is certainly many universes in the multi-universe where Alex Len plays 26 minutes and scores 39 fantasy points tonight. So I totally understand anyone who doesn't want to do that. But anyhow, none of those men.
Are you surprised that Boylan's not playing these guys more minutes?
Yes. Yeah. Especially Lauri.
Yeah.
Who like, all right, shooting slump. And, he came out at whatever 60 in the first game of the year and then it just hasn't gone that great for him. But I don't think you need to go full RJ Barrett on it. I think there's a comfortable middle in there.
Yeah.
But I look at the Bulls and because they have tier A talent they're trying to develop. They're trying to develop Levine and, Lauri and Wendell and maybe Kobe. So I kind of like Kobe's usage. Like he's not starting, he's not the best there, but they're still getting him 24 minutes off the bench and he gets out there and just jacks up shots.
Yeah.
And I think you can do that against the Hawks also, especially on DK. FanDuel, he's been pretty cheap the whole time. I think he's 39 today. That's nothing wrong with 3,900 Kobe White, 24 minutes, 16 shots against the Hawks.
No, he's going to get the looks.
DK 3,600. Like he's been in the 4s most of the year. So excited about Kobe White, makes sense there. But I like Lauri Markkanen. I would be more excited to play Lauri Markkanen than Zach LaVine. They both have great matchups. Lauri's is even a little bit better. Again, none of the guys at center can handle that smoke. And they have Jabari Parker now at power forward who can't handle anybody's smoke. Jabari Parker has such a bad case of asthma. He can't smoke at all on defense. He's
one of the worst defensive players in basketball.
He's really, really bad. He wasn't very good when he had knees.
No.
And now
that was a weakness before multiple ACL reconstructions.
Yeah, both knees. I feel for that guy.
Oh, me too. I mean, He gets a bad rap. When he first came back from the first tear, he looked really good for Milwaukee, and then
He did. He really did. I
Just-
feel, he just lost his opportunity. One of those guys you see him go out again, you're like, oh, it's not unlike Alec Burks, who, 4K tonight or whatever. Small forward on FanDuel.
lest we forget, like he was Giannis first, sort of.
Yeah.
And like that should be a very lethal offensive duo.
Yeah.
Best laid plans.
Yeah. But yeah, Laurie,
Yeah.
could creep over 30 minutes. There's no one here who should stop him. So again, he could very possibly stop himself. The coach could stop him, but it's far from a lock. I think he's a CA. He might have got up to a BA, but I do think there is a very real ceiling game for him. He could, get you into the 50s tonight. I wouldn't be shocked. And because he's been hot garbage, the ownership should be nominal.
That price is just hard to avoid too. He's priced like he's not himself.
Yeah. I have FanDuel 73 in play. But yeah, 6.4 on DK is a price I'm particularly a fan of. You alluded to Brad Beal.
Yeah, I have a little bit of interest in Brad Beal here today.
He's going to do some dumb things several times this year. And the last time I said that he went out and did the dumb things and gave us 61 or whatever, and that's going to happen frequently. I like Thomas Bryant a lot. Thomas Bryant might be slightly preferable due to price for me. I think the matchup for him is going to turn out better than if you had Turner in there, but having Sabonis in there makes it a little less cozy than him fouling out Goga in 20 minutes and then getting whatever he wanted. So not quite as excited. But Brad Beal at 8-9 FanDuel is especially juicy. 8-6 on DK. Dude is very capable, and the matchup is not that bad, by the way. And they're minus some people and minus Miles Turner, who's a bit of an impediment for a guy who can drive. So. Yeah, $8,900 Brad Beal, 86 I think is the number on DK. Is gonna have. I said it once I said it twice, including the day he did. I was like, this dude is gonna score 60 fantasy points in the next 2 weeks, and he went out and scored 60 that night. That's going to happen a couple times a month. Like he is going to. It's sort of the same thing as Kevin Love. This team is bad and has one really really good player on it. They're occasionally just gonna pop off.
Justin in YouTube chat just hit us with the super chat, so thank you very much. He asked, can we prioritize the center position on FanDuel? I'll give my thoughts quick. I'll toss it to Eddie. I would go Towns, Drummond, Thomas Bryant, Embiid, Jonas Valanciunas.
In tournaments, I would go. I'm going to go Towns, Embiid, Drummond, Valanciunas. I do like the pay up. I like Valanciunas a lot at 6K. I'm more inclined to pay up for other guys. I would rather save $1,000 and ownership and go with Embiid over Drummond. Drummond is just fine. Again, they gave Mitch the start. Yeah. That's smart. There you go. Because it's not as entertaining as watching Drummond eat Bobby Portis's children, but he can put up some contest, but he clowned Mitch pretty well the couple times they played last year. Like he still got his.
Yeah.
I'll look that one up because again, that's just from memory. But I recall being like, I wonder if Mitch is athletic enough and is developed enough, and it wasn't. Again, Mitch had bad games, and so this is oddly he's going to get the start, and he's still just 5K. And I'm a big Mitch Robinson fan. Like I've been suggesting him in GPPs for weeks, which hasn't really turned out because reasons. But let's see. Last game they played against each other, Drummond played 27 minutes and had 20 and 18.
I think his prop today is like 18 boards too, so that's insanity. I think I got him at like 22 and 19 or something today.
Yeah, the one thing you think he might struggle at would be that. But in the 3 games he's played where Mitch Robinson has played any time, and again, this is 15, 22, and 23 minutes of Mitch, and I don't have time to download the time against each other on the court.
Yeah.
Mitch started 2 of these 3, I think, but he had 16, 18, and 20 rebounds in those 3 games. So it hasn't been a real issue in the past. But yeah, 20 and 18, 29 and 20, 17 and 16 with 5 blocks in the 3 games against the Knicks in calendar year 2019. So hasn't been an issue. So don't get me wrong. I'm not at all, troubled if you still end up on Drummond, but those centers are really expensive. I probably would rather play Valanciunas than any of them because I just feel that there's comparably priced guards who are a little more likely to bash out 70 for me.
That makes some sense.
Like I just think, if I'm going to spend 11K on a player, I kind of like Harden has a very real chance at 100. None of the centers, excepting Towns. Towns has some chance at it. Like Embiid is not with a full strength team against the Jazz going to give you more than 70, 75 under like 0.5% of the time. It's not going to happen. Drummond just really doesn't have that in his game. And again, I like me some Drummond, and he can do 35 and 25. Like that's in his bag, but even that's like 70, 75, 80. James Harden could put up 100 fantasy points tonight without batting an eye.
No, if the three falls and he
if he
has
makes
one of those like
his
20
threes
and has one of those like 24 free throw games.
Yeah.
That's what he needs.
So raw points where I have a GPP upside guy on FanDuel and he costs $6K. In one lineup, I'm probably going to go there. As far as the high price centers, I would rank them as I ordered them there. But I'd probably in one lineup be a little more excited to play Valanciunas.
Okay.
I mean, there's some of the guys on FanDuel are so poorly priced. Like one of the reasons I like Luka on DK is he's 9,800. He's 11 on FanDuel and not a great matchup. Like 11's a real number. I like Luka, but that's 11.
It's healthy. It's healthy.
That's a healthy number. Like
I essentially didn't have him on my first crunch.
Right, and you and I love him, and again, 6 games this year is 250s, 260s, and into the 70s on it. Like, dude's averaging somewhere close to a 60 burger on the year. Like that's pretty good.
I say it a lot. Like I haven't projected well, but these guys have prices too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Giannis. I like Giannis. Giannis is great. Dude's 12K.
Yeah,
it's 12. I can get Harden for 11.5. I'm gonna take Harden in a brilliant matchup.
Yeah, but it becomes a tough sell a little bit.
Yeah, Harden becomes I have Harden as my highest projected guy. I think most people do. I don't know if you do. Right.
Of course.
So he's it's other people I've heard name other people, but for me it's him by several points.
I have Harden. It's close with Giannis, but it's still Harden.
Yeah, I have Giannis 4 less. I think I like Giannis just fine, but dude's expensive.
We got another super chat. Would you rather have Julius Randle or Jabari Parker in a FanDuel GPP?
That would be depending on ownership for me. I have a lot of interest in both those guys. Matchup not too bad for either one. I hate saying this shit, but I think revenge relevant for Jabari. Sorry.
Randall at 20%.
Jabari at 10 or 12, I bet.
Jabari at where the hell is he? He's
DFS,
a power forward too. Okay. Jabari at 14, same price.
14. Okay. Yeah. At that point I'd play Jabari.
Okay.
It's a fine matchup for him. It's setting aside, Garpax bullshit in Chicago and whatever. There's just, it's absolutely a fine spot.
Yeah.
You would think Anthony Davis could pull more than 35 out of it, but it's still a fine spot.
Okay. I think that I would lead to Randall, but these guys are not separated by a ton. And as of right now, I've got quite a bit more Randall than I do Jabari.
Yeah, Randall is priced to move, and I think people we're running out of guys who just haven't done it this year, so their ownership is kind of crappy. But he just hasn't done it this year. But he's one of the few guys on this team who's constantly getting looks and usage and time, and he's not playing with Anthony Davis any days this year, and we've seen he's a guy who can drop 50, 60 when not so inhibited, and plus when you start throwing out more Frank Ntilikina minutes. And more that's more guys who just aren't taking away from the usage. So there is absolutely a monster in the tank for Julius Randle.
Yeah.
Don't know if we see it, but I'm not shocked if you bang 50 tonight.
No, that dude can put it up in bunches if he really wants to. We've got 7 minutes until lock. I am dumping my lineup, my final crunch in here now, and then we could take some really rapid fire questions. Do you see anything in Slack as of right now? Before I get there, I need about 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll find me. Let me take a look at some messages here.
Yeah.
Do I like Jaren Jackson Jr. and Covington on FanDuel? I think they're both just fine. Again, Jaren Jackson Jr. His price has continued to reduce to the point where something great can obviously happen at some point. I don't think playing him alongside Valanciunas necessarily makes a lot of sense. I would slightly prefer Triple J to Covington. Covington can pick up lots of defensive stats. I like the track meet nature of the game for him. I'd rather go there than say Jay Crowder across the ball, which has been brought up to me a couple times. I'd rather, I think he's an absolutely fine play, but I do think the ceiling is a bit more limited in the absence of effective point guard play. Does affect him a little bit more. So I'd be more interested in going with Triple J. I think anyone who has bonus will have minutes limited. I haven't seen that, and keep in mind that he's also the one guy on this team who didn't play in overtime last night. So he certainly could put his thing down.
We got 2 more super chats. How many fantasy points does Christian Wood score? My answer would be not enough. 18.
He's 3,600.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun direct pivot off one of the top 3 owned players on the slate on DK, where, if Morris gets in foul trouble again, maybe that makes some sense. But yeah, I think the most likely scenario again is his time is limited, but I don't think it's out of play. But there's just a lot of other guys with less uncertainty and similar upside.
We got a lot of value out there today.
Yep.
Thoughts on Jalen Noel?
I can't see the time there being sufficient enough.
No.
Like, they're bringing up guys for emergency purposes. I don't think it's likely that this is like when people are like, what do you think about Moses Brown for the Trailblazers last week? And I'm like, I'm not sure he plays. People are like, I like him. He's the minimum. I'm like, I really don't know if he plays.
Yeah.
And just, they're having him there for emergency purposes. I would guess he plays. I would guess it's somewhere in the 11 to 12 minute range.
He gets 2 rotations after the starters.
And again, if it's a 2-game slate and we're desperate for value and I'm playing in the showdown, and those are all things that would change it. But on the main slate, I think that's being well too cute.
I agree. Your favorite DK GPP value?
Let's tilt our head to computer number 3.
I think it's Aaron Holiday for me now.
I was going to say, I think Aaron Holiday. I'm looking at the placeholder lineup I'm sitting on here. I think I'd go with Aaron Holiday. Yeah, I think he holds under 10%, and the matchup is great. And I still feel pretty good about, based on the Sumner usage and the other things they've done in the past, I still feel pretty good about high 20s in minutes. So, yeah, I think.
Final piece of news came in. I don't get the sense that it's all that relevant today, but Maxey in.
Yeah, I mean, it takes Dwight Powell out of your list of 31 compelling value plays. I mean, maybe not entirely out, but it's not a particularly wonderful spot for him anyway. I mean, it's a pretty bad spot for him. Which makes things a hair worse for Vooch, who is, prices down on Vooch. Did really well in this matchup towards the end of last year. Again, no Kristaps, who changes a whole lot of things for both these teams. But
that dude cannot buy a bucket this year. He is shooting like 40% effective field goal percentage or something so far.
Right.
Awful.
Yep.
Awful.
Very true. But I that will end at some point. So it could very possibly be tonight. OG and Towns or Drummond and Pascal in Yahoo Cash. The scoring is relevant on Yahoo. I would play Drummond and Pascal there. It's very close. In cash, I would play Drummond and Pascal.
I don't have much Drummond on Yahoo tonight. I think I would have to go OG and Towns. I have more Towns than I have Drummond.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't have OG.
Right, that's why
Pascal?
I feel like Pascal and Drummond are better in cash. OG is the player there who I'm least comfortable with in cash, and I don't mind Drummond and Pascal, so that's sort of where I made that determination. As far as some projection, I think I actually have OG and Towns 1.5 higher, if I'm remembering correctly. I will look it up.
I have Towns. I'm with you on this one now. After looking at it, I would go Drummond and Pascal.
Yeah, I would play Drummond and Pascal in cash. I have Drummond and I have the Drummond side projected. Slightly lower. I have the Town side projected slightly higher, but I would still play the Drummond side.
Ooh, Joe Val or Kai Bowman DK?
Yeah, 61, baby. I would probably play Jonas Valanciunas.
I would play Kai Bowman.
I couldn't blame you. I have Kai Bowman projected slightly higher. I would still play Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, I get it. That's a really tough one. They are basically like two opposite players. We know exactly what we get out of Joe Val. Kai Bowman is kind of a question mark.
There was potentially some news, and I'm just making sure I didn't miss something here.
Nothing since Maxey in.
None of my stuff hit. Okay.
Thomas Bryant or Julius Randle on DK?
I have to go with Randle.
Yeah,
I like Bryant plenty, but I like a lot of guys tonight. I prefer Randle.
I have Randle by 2 points, so give me Randle.
Yep, same. On the nose, my friend. On the nose.
Brief thoughts on Jordan Poole?
I like him. I mean, I think his shots would normalize in the 13-14 range. I think I'm more confident in it than Burks. I think the minutes I would project 2 or 3 higher than both Burks and Damian Lee, and I don't think the pricing and ownership differentials quite support getting away from it. So I like Poole. He is my favorite second tier player from that team.
Okay. We are about to be locked. I'm going to start grabbing contests for DraftKings.
Oh, goody.
Daddy likes time.
I'm
Buckle
ready.
up, everybody. Thank you to the 3,226 people that showed up tonight to watch us talk basketball. We really appreciate it. Makes me feel great every time I see that number climb. So I greatly appreciate it. And thank you to the... I don't even know how many people hit the like button at this point. 1,300, I'm guessing. So thank you to everybody that did that. Thank you to everybody for the super
Did we
chats
remember?
as well.
Did we remember to unlock our stuff?
Everything was unlocked that could be unlocked.
That's great. I think that's a great little gimmick you guys are doing. Yesterday, I was going to do a thing where if we hit 1,000 likes, I was going to have Randone take off his shirt, but he didn't go for it, so it didn't happen.
I think we would see
maybe
the
next time.
male-female demographic change a little bit on that video for the first time ever.
I don't know. There's speaking only for myself. There's plenty of men who enjoy Randone.
Oh, right, but I just mean we are at like 99.2 to 0.8%. So I think we can get to like 1.5.
Let's get some ladies in here. Yeah.
There you go. I'm refreshing. Alrighty, export lineups to CSV.
Nothing wrong with some nice man candy, though.
No. That was a great show, by the way.
Yeah, no, it was good. Nothing. It always feels weird. Like I am very lucky to have tremendous lead-in, and that you guys do 4 hours of coverage of every game before I enter the chair. So I get the incredibly lucky job of, hey, let's talk about stuff. Here's some facts about this guy and this guy. It's. I do a lot of research, and occasionally there's days where I come down and go, this guy is 1/8 as owned as you should be. And there's days like today where nothing struck me as like incredibly off, and we just have sort of a nice chat. But thanks to you and all the other guys who really carry the coal all day. That's much appreciated.
So we've got 2 games kicking off at 7:00. We have...
All right, Pistons, Pacers. Right, go ahead.
Pistons, Pacers...
Wizards.
Yes.
Knicks.
We have... Wait, is this right? Yep.
It's just those two,
Yeah,
right?
we're good. For a second, I didn't think that the other, like both games got unlocked. I thought I got to the CSV too early. We have 7 guys in double digits in ownership. Can you guess those 7?
All right. Bruce Brown, Brogdon. I'm not going to say Aaron Holiday yet. Markieff, Drummond. How many was that? 4?
Yes, you have 4 so far.
TJ Warren.
That's 5.
Goga.
That's 6.
Oh, he did go there? Okay.
I think that's a mistake. But
I don't know. I
9 gamer for the non-starting center now for the Pacers.
I mean, last time he didn't start, he got 25 off the bench or something. Like I don't think I'd particularly go there, but he's a fine fantasy producer. Like I don't love it, but I don't think it's horrific. Julius Randle.
Julius Randle is not a part of the top 7. He is 9th.
Not 10%. It's not gonna be enough Isaiah Thomas. I can't imagine many people went into the 8s on Sabonis. I'll try Sabonis.
Nope. Less than Randle.
You
want a hint?
I'll try Aaron Holiday.
Aaron Holiday.
Oh, he did get there. I blame us. How many people were watching us? I'm just saying. We both said he was our favorite value play. He got there.
Who is number 1 in ownership?
That's close. I would have both Brown and Brogdon, I think, round about the high 20s. I'll say Brogdon.
Brogdon, 37%.
Mama. That's big on a slate. I mean, we can officially, I think I've heard someone, including myself, say, people really aren't respecting what he's doing about 600 times. Okay, at least as far as DFS goes, people are respecting how he's doing. Because on a slate like this, at a price over 8K, getting up to 37% owned, I don't dislike it either. I mean, it's probably more than I would want to have, just because I really like about 68 plays today. So 37% is a hell of a commitment for 8K. But
the big one,
you get Lamb out of there, and there's still no Turner, and hard to project him for much less than like 45. So I get that.
Two guys are tied for second. I rounded down, so like it's just.
So Bruce Brown.
Correct.
Right. I keep getting Bruce Brown and Brian Bowen confused, who's on the Pacers Summer
Bowen?
League team. Right. No, that's why it happens, because Bruce Bowen's son Brian Bowen was also the Summer League, as well as Bruce Brown and others. So both Midwestern teams, and I constantly am like, was that him or was that the other one? Like it's one of those things. Don't get me started on holidays, but Bruce Brown. Someone's up with Bruce Brown. Markeith.
Incorrect. Markeith is fourth.
TJ War. Did Aaron Holiday get up to 25% ownership or whatever this is?
That's it.
It's Aaron Holiday?
27% for Bruce Brown, 27% for Aaron Holiday.
So there was a fun video I saw online today with someone I'm not previously acquainted with, who works for one of our competitors, who is talking about how we're all too damn smart for ourselves, and how, I don't know if you saw this.
I did not.
It was pretty funny, but it was just a guy talking about it like, everyone is so into fading the chalk that you can just play the chalk and get the best players lower owned than they should be every day, was I think the crux of his point. And it's kind of funny. We're all trying to, like, part of the reason everyone flows on Aaron Holiday. I mean, 3,100, nice. I hope my minutes projection is realistic. I feel pretty good about it, and the matchup is great. So a certain degree it makes sense, but a certain degree it's like also everyone wants to be like, oh, thank God I can pivot off of KCP now, or thank God I can get away from Markeith now. It's like everyone's real anxious to move. So that's interesting.
What were the games? So it's Indiana, Detroit, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the fourth team?
Indiana, Detroit, New York, and Washington.
Washington. Okay. I just wanted to filter my own stuff to see like the order of what I would have had these guys. So it would have been.
So I'm going to guess. This is fun. Okay. So here we go. Top you said was Brogdon. I'm going to guess you had under 37%.
Oh, I don't have anything for DK, so this is going to be pretty meaningless.
Never mind. Okay.
I was just looking at like where I think I would have had them. I would have had more Holiday than Brogdon, I would expect. Brogdon would have been 2 out of all of these people. Markeith would have been 3. Thomas Bryant 4. Bruce Brown 5. I'm pretty high on Thomas Bryant today.
Where did Drummond end up? I didn't catch that. If you told
in
me.
Mine,
he was yours or the actual on DK. I'm kind of curious.
13% on DraftKings. 10-8 is a tough sell. He would have been my 10th ranked dollar for dollar play out of those 4 games. Now that's different because his top end is a little bit different, but
and that's something we should take 30 seconds and talk about, because it's an important lesson. One of the reasons why looking at your value range as 4x or 5x or 6x doesn't make any sense, is that you need a better X out of your value than you do out of your studs.
Yep.
And you get it much more frequently. Tonight's a great example. The number of players who cost at least, I'll move the bar down to make it fair, 9,000, who get at least 6x will be, I don't know, 4.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's a very tiny
3.
number.
The number of players who cost 3,000 to 4,000 who get at least 6x will be 25 or 20 or some incredibly significant number. So, 4x plus 10, 5x plus 10, depending on the site, whatever. But you have to have a constant there. It's also the answer to the question where people are like, oh, if there was a guy who guaranteed me, 1 point and cost $0, you should almost never play that guy. There is a cost to the slot in a number of ways, both mathematically and heuristically, and also as far as, there is a real tax that even when you make the slot cost 0, you just lose a lot of flexibility. And the bigger the slate is, the more you can get away from that. But you need your minimum guys to do some work to make the slot work. And the biggest reason why you wouldn't want to get rid of, take someone who scores 1 point for $0 is the fact that you have to play more expensive guys who are almost always less efficient.
Well said.
Yeah. Maybe you get 100 out of Harden tonight. No, it's like, no, I got 8x out of my 11K guy, but
Trying to see if anybody played themselves today before we get out of here.
Ooh, it would have to be trying to think who you could play yourself with.
Chris Chiozza in, let's see.
Elf, the Knicks guards. L for DSJ would be the, off the top of my head, guys who someone might have. The Detroit guys too, actually. Detroit has 3
Jeremy
point
Lamb,
guards out.
0.16%. You played yourself.
Oh, Lamb too. Miles Turner. Yeah, there's lots of guys. Lamb, Turner, Rose, Frazier.
From what I could tell, it's
Reggie, Blake.
I think it's
a lot of
just Lamb.
Really?
Yeah.
I like free money for the team.
Yeah, I think it's just like Lamb.
Yeah, there's like 11 guys out now that I think about it for Indiana, Detroit, New York.
Another one in the books.
I enjoyed it.
In the books. Guys, thank you for joining us. You can still hit that like button. It still helps us out, even though we don't have any more stuff to give you guys. But we would really appreciate it. Thank you very much to Fantasy Draft. I'm defending my belt tonight. So I will be insufferable again tomorrow.
What'd you take down for first place in the you said the $5,
like $650 or something stupid. It's a 1,000 person.
Well,
contest.
they run and again I think it wasn't particularly good for you, but most nights it's really nice that they run a really flat prize distribution of the many nice things out of Fantasy Draft. They don't do 35% of the prizes to first place.
Yeah, I thought about just putting 10 lineups into the $25 instead of that, and I was like, I just kind of want to max this contest. It would have won that contest, and it would have been in it because it was my third ranked lineup. So that was annoying. But
That's
what are you going to do? I'll take the W.
Yeah.
I have the belt around my waist for at least tonight. So thank you guys for joining us. Eddie, you will be back tomorrow night with Chris Baggs, correct?
True.
There we go. Eddie is back, guys. I will be off. But I will be back on Friday also with Chris Baggs. Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you in the morning, myself and Adam, on the strategy show. Good luck tonight. Go Lou Williams for me.
Yeah, go Laurie Markkinen for me. I'll make my spirit animal for the evening.
There you go. Good spirit animal. Thanks, guys. Later on.